to start ticking down here. Now you can see that number is moving, it's pretty small. 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
So we are currently recording
Okay.
this entire WebEx experience. We'll be capturing the participants panel, okay, as well as the chat panel that I have up here, okay.
Okay.
All right, so you've got a chat panel. You're going to get a scroll bar here as more participants show up.
Okay.
Okay, because you're going to, if you have 100 people, they're going to not all be showing on the screen at the same time. So you may need to scroll to see people.
So there's no way to cut the glare on the screen without turning out the light so I can't see people in here, right? Okay. Okay. That's fine.
Okay, do you want the chat window up, or are you going to allow chat?
Yeah, there's a loud chat.
Okay, you're going to allow chat. Does it record the chat? It records everything you see on the screen. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Yep. But you will need to scroll. I mean, the chat will auto-scroll up, if somebody puts a new message, it'll populate there, and the old ones will kind of go away. All right, that's fine. And then and then for participants, like I said, you won't see everybody at once here. You'll need, because, right, so there's a whole update. So you'll need to scroll if you want to capture that somebody's on there. Again, the recording is capturing on the desktop of this physical computer. So that's the computer that we'll use to go retrieve it this afternoon or tomorrow. I think, Anne, does that all make sense to you? Do you want to?
Sure.
You want to get this a little bit? I would get this now where you are comfortable with it, because you're going to want to be able to mute and unmute people. Yep, that's going to mute you.
Yep, I don't
right?
want to.
And then upon participant, you can mute all or mute individuals.
And I wanted to tell him this is where you will speak into when you're talking.
That's correct, yeah. Audio will be coming out of the genre in the middle of the room, and that's also where the microphone is. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
You have my phone number, and just call me if you need me.
Okay.
Okay. Break a leg. All right.
New innovation. Moving into the 21st century.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us in our new and perhaps improved manner. And dealing with the situation. My name is Chris Granger. I'm the hearing officer appointed by the Secretary for adoption of this rule on general requirements for boarding homes, 7.8.4.1 sec. That's someone joining us, right? All right, thank you. So this hearing was originally advertised for this morning as a public hearing. Proper notice was put out to change the time to 2 o'clock this afternoon, and make a video conference. Notice was issued indicating we would accept written comments up until the 17th, I believe, 5 o'clock on the 17th.
Through the mail.
Through the mail. I understand we have not received any at this time.
Not at this time. So we will accept by email, so we know it's until 5 o'clock today.
Okay, good. Come on, mute. Okay, yes.
Thank you.
All right. We will also receive written comments through email up until 5 o'clock today. There is an email address listed in the notice of public hearing. All right. So deal with swearing witnesses. I guess we can do that as a for you, correct?
Correct.
Turn it over to you to present the proposed rule.
Sure.
All right, so I will do that. And please speak up or write a note on the chat if you're having trouble hearing or seeing anything. We'll try to address that.
When they start talking on the phone to
right. So we have a sign-in sheet. Obviously, you can't do that. So when anyone starts talking, and we'll try our best to take people in order, please clearly give me your full name and spell it. We'll try to write it down, and we'll try to get it correct. So I'm going to ask Department of Health to present the new rule. if I have immediate questions, I'll ask them. I have some that I'll probably reserve. We will then open it up to individuals participating by video chat to make comments or ask questions. I think perhaps the best way to do that is for you to write us a note on the chat feature with your name spelled out. That will help, and then essentially raising your hand. So then we can call you in order for signing in. Okay. Okay. So I see we already have folks signing in. That would be an excellent way of doing it. Then we can also, I appreciate you bearing with me. Okay. So we just have one chat note for sign in. I think it's probably an excellent way. So if everyone can sign in, give your name, spell it, indicate who you might be representing. And then do a separate chat if you actually want to speak and make comments, because those won't necessarily be the same. And then we'll try to get you in order. All right. That said.
This is Chris Burmeister. He is the division director for DHI. He is in the room with us. I am Ann Washburn. I am the attorney with OGC.
Now, Dan Maxwell is the deputy director for DHI. Okay, thank you.
Okay. I think that gets us to, if Ms. Washburn, you could please present the proposed rule and if you wish. I assume everyone, if they got this far, had an opportunity to get it off the website and review it. I know I certainly did.
Yes, this is Ann Washburn. I'm an attorney with the Office of General Counsel. The rule we're here to talk about today is 7.4, general requirements for boarding homes. This rule with strike 10 is already actually in effect as an emergency rule that was put into effect, I believe, December 5th. It will stay in effect until June 2nd. This is the version of the rule which will go into effect June 3rd. And this is, as it states on here, the general requirements for boarding homes. The state has issued this rule to apply to public or private boarding homes which come within the statutory definition of health facilities set out in subsection F of section 24.1.2 of the Public Health Act, and which are required to be licensed by the state licensing authority. This rule applies to all boarding home facilities which receive lodging for compensation and are operated to provide assistance with one or more mental activities of daily living to residents, or assistance with the coordination of community services, and who do not need the level of services and supervision provided in a skilled nursing facility, intermediate care facility, assisted living facility, or a general or special hospital or other institution, nor does it include boarding homes under the control of an institution of higher learning. These requirements will not include any facility which is otherwise licensed or regulated by the department, or any hotel, or other landlord-tenant relationship, or homeless shelter. That is, the scope of the rule is set out in 7.8.4.2 in MAC.
All right. We are here on a public hearing. So Lev, if we could scroll back up, Ms. Washburn, and see if we have anyone signing in yet.
In chat or
in chat? Okay. So we have sign in. All right. And that's okay. So we have enough people signed in. Now, if anyone.
There's no comment box.
Okay. Do we have everyone? How many numbers do we have on participants versus how many signed in? Has anyone not signed in on chat yet?
I cannot
Okay, so if you're on the call and you have not used the chat feature to sign in with your name, please do so.
Hello, Margaret.
This is my name. My name is Sheila Silverman.
Okay. Apparently folks just joining us now. All right, so what I'd like to do to take testimony, comments, questions, what I was hoping is anyone who does want to make any comments or ask questions would sign in on chat and then we can call you that way. I haven't seen anyone do that yet. More people are doing it.
Okay.
All right, whoever just joined us, if you could please use the chat feature to sign in. Also let us know if you want to make comments. All right, so we might just go through the folks who have signed in and ask if they have comments, questions, testimony. To start with Tim Gardner from Facility Rights New Mexico. Mr. Gardner?
We'll submit comments soon, this afternoon by 5 o'clock. I don't have any to provide now. Thank you for that.
That's fine. If you can submit them email by 5 o'clock, we would look forward to reading those. All right. Next is Floyd from Aging and Long-Term Services Department. What's her name again? Emily Floyd. Anyone?
Chris.
Yes, Floyd. All right.
Ms. Floyd, do you have any comments you want to submit? I don't think she's.
Okay. All right. We will move on to Danny Maxwell. Dan Maxwell, Mr. Maxwell.
I don't think she's.
Do you have any comments you wish to make?
Hi, no comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for joining. Next joining us was Emily Luke, Aging and Long-Term Services Department. Ms. Luke, do you have any comments you wish to make?
Hi. Hi, Chris. Hi, Ann. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Good. So we did send an email that contained our comments. We sent it to Chris's email address yesterday afternoon.
I didn't get it. Or maybe I did. Mr. Burmeister, you didn't get it.
So any written comments received by email will be posted onto the website. Do you want to see if you have that, Chris?
Yeah.
We've got 3 million emails from Feds and everybody else going through right now. Emily, we may need to have you resend that to Mr. Burmeister to ensure that we do in fact get it posted to the website.
Sure. Just let me know.
Okay. And I've got it. He has that. It was in yesterday.
Good.
Okay.
To the website. I apologize, Ron. I didn't interrupt you.
Not at all. Okay, next is Mr. Garcia, Dominic Garcia. Anyone having issue with audio? Are you able to hear us?
Yes. Mr. Garcia?
Dominic Garcia. I'll type a chat if you can't talk. Okay. Deployed, unmuted. What happens if we keep going?
In the chat section?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is.
Elizabeth Montoya. I don't have any comments.
Okay.
Oh, okay. No, it's Floyd. Okay. All right. So we lose Mr. Garcia. Now Dominic Garcia still shows up there. Okay. This is Montoya. I sent a letter to Cabinet Secretary and emailed Chris the night when it was due.
Okay.
Who's that from?
And Elizabeth Montoya?
I don't recall getting the name.
Yeah, I sent it the night of, and I also sent one into the email. I mean to Karen, to the cabinet secretary, and that was like about a month and a half ago or so.
We're checking those just a moment.
I'm assuming that, Chris, not me.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we could get you to go ahead and send that again today. Would that be possible?
So I'll do that.
Okay. So please do confirm the correct email address on the public notice.
Anything?
That's a good point. Do you care to make any statements at this time or comments?
Once I hear what's going on and what's happening, then maybe I'll have my comments here because I just want to listen to everybody first.
Okay. It doesn't sound like we're getting an overwhelming amount of comments, so this could be close to your only chance, but we'll certainly come back before we end. That's the last we have on chat at that point. All right. Is there anyone else who's wanted to speak who hasn't had an opportunity so far?
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Yes. Your name?
Okay, this is Sheila Silverman. I'm in Las Vegas, and the WebEx the website is not working. Every time I try to check in, it says something went wrong, and you have to go sign up, and it will not accept that. So I'm on the phone, and I really can't figure out what is happening. It's just very confusing.
I apologize for that, Ms. Silverman and Ms. Chris Grazer. It is somewhat confusing. I appreciate everyone's patience. But certainly I can hear you well now, and certainly interested if you have any comments, questions.
Well, no, it was just mainly that we can't get on to the WebEx site.
Understood, yeah. So what you're missing is primarily a video of a conference room with three of us sitting in it.
Yeah, I hear you. But it would be able to chat and be able to put things into perspective if we had that. It could be a better site. And the other thing is this information that we had to put into the on the site, the meeting number and all, they did not accept any of that. Before it went down, they would not accept that information.
Well, fair enough noted. I appreciate that. We will check in with IT about what happened there. We're obviously all learning and trying to get this process to work as we go along. But as I said, I can definitely hear you. I'm certainly interested if you have any comments to make on the proposed rule at this time.
Well, no, I really would like to hear what other people have to say before I comment.
Okay, understood. At this point, Ms. Washburn, I introduced the rules, told us what the purpose and intent was. We haven't had any comment from anybody else.
Okay, thank you.
I have Ms. Montoya's email, but I don't have any content. It was just her and I. Ms. Montoya, I have emails that you and I have been going, but I don't have any formal recommendations from you. Unlike the ones that I got from Aging and Long Trip, which I do have all their recommendations, which I forwarded to Ann to make part of the record. But Ms. Montoya, if you have any kind of written comments other than the ones that we were talking about the oxygen and the clients and stuff like that, is it best for you to state those, or like you said, you could wait as we go through?
Well, you know what? I guess if I have anything to say, I guess everybody's up, like, not knowing what to say about it. But, my thing is, I do rent. I have two people that live in my place. And we did have, them coming in. I mean, I guess the people you guys sent to come in and look at the home and stuff, and everybody, they wrote down stuff, what's good, what's not, and I don't even know. I guess, if my homes were, if people were able to live in them, because, I mean, So I really don't know any comments of what, any input of what happened when they came into my home to look at that house, to see if it was livable or what. So really, I'm not sure if anybody else got any comments about that or about what was going, what happened with that. So as of right now, I'm still renting just with the two people. They have their individual bedrooms. I help out as much as if they need help, especially with the virus. I go in on one that. So really, I'm not sure. I guess everybody doesn't know what they're going to do. It's like, am I going to continue to rent, or am I going to, or what am I going to do, or am I going to become licensed? I guess our thing is to be licensed. What do we have to do? I know we talked about that issue. Packet we received, and everybody got shocked with it. So right now, I guess everybody did. There's no comment just because nobody knows what to expect or what to say. Or, if I have to be licensed, to get licensed, I do whatever I have to do to get licensed and to be legit. But if it's going to cost me, because the two people that live, the renters that I only have two renters, and I have 3 homes. And only 2 right now, only 2 people are using one home, and each one, it's like their own apartment, their own place. So really, I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm just waiting to find out and what kind of input you guys put in the agenda of what is expected of us to better us to get licensed. We just need to know, when do we get a report of when people came in? Did you guys find out anything about the city to be able to get licensed here? I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. With respect to what you're going to have to do to be licensed, that's kind of what we're here to talk about. There's been a proposed rule, so I'd certainly encourage you to, within the next couple of hours, go through that, and if you have specific comments, items you see in there that are of particular concern to you, or you have a suggestion of how you might do it better, or would have trouble complying, etc., that would be really helpful information for me making a recommendation. So if you could try to go through that rule and get some comments in to the email address within the next couple of hours, that would be very helpful. Just Washburn, if you wanted to respond to that at all. Okay.
I was going to say, if I could respond, it's Ruben Roybal.
William Roybal?
Ruben. R-U-B-E-N.
Thank you, Mr. Roybal. Please go ahead.
I'm just here actually as a citizen on here, and the comment, I guess I have a few of them here right now, and I would say that as it right now is proposed on there, I would say I do not agree with it 100%, because there's a lot of things in there that, again, as we had spoke at the last meeting, that basically, I know if you guys had mentioned that you had piggyback off basically the current regulations that you use for assisted living homes and nursing homes, etc. And so, I think right now is why I don't agree with it is because it's kind of like in one swoop motion, you're trying to turn an apple into an orange. And yet, I don't think that's going to be possible in one swoop motion to be able to do that. And I think, like, for instance, when I asked a question on the fire marshal inspection, when the fire people went in and did inspections on these different homes in Las Vegas, I had asked, well, why is it then that the state fire marshal, the city fire marshal, and county fire marshal could not get together and come up with one uniform plan for everybody to follow in the state of New Mexico? And I was told, I believe it was the cabinet secretary that said, well, we don't have a fire marshal, we don't work with a fire marshal. And I said, well, if that is the case, then what guidelines did you guys use to go into all these homes to be able to even come up with the basis of, oh, well, you don't meet criteria, or you need to change this, or you need to change that? Well, that had to have been established from somewhere to be able to tell somebody if they didn't meet a criteria. So I feel that right now, this is actually going to be needing more time to be able to work on this, to be able to come up with something. By no means am I against any type of licensing or anything of that. I think it's important to have as a base, but I just don't think it's anything that's going to be ready at this time the way it is proposed right now.
Thank you, Mr. Roybal. So let's take the first part of that. Do you have specific thoughts on, are you saying you think that there should be one point of contact as far as fire marshal inspections?
Well, I kind of think that since this is going to be a state licensing, it's definitely going to have to probably start either and say, okay, well, we're going to have to go ahead and, if it's through memorandums of understanding or however form you guys want to go about it for the state, you're going to have to go ahead and say, well, what type of regulation? Are we going to use the regulation that's currently there that we're using for assisted living homes and for nursing homes? Because if that's the case, well, then that means that everybody more or less that's in a building home industry and setting right now is going to have to do improvements to their home. Which means, again, as I had stated at the last meeting, how are they going to do that if you're still classifying them at $700 a month / just boarding home or rental? They're not going to. They're going to have to start charging the same thing as an assisted living and a nursing home. So they're going to have to start doing that at $5,000, for instance, for a client so that they can meet the guidelines that you're proposing right there in your proposal of saying you want a CNA there 24/7, you want them to meet this fire code, you want them to go ahead and meet this on your egress, etc., hallways, everything else, lighting. I mean, in other words, if you want to turn that apple into that orange, you're going to have to find the funding somewhere to be able to make that possible. It's not going to be one of those that it's just going to come out of thin air because that's an unfunded mandate in a sense. And it's unrealistic. And I know you're charged with this because of a judge telling you guys have to do something out here. I just think that right now it is so wide that we've got to narrow this down. And as I had mentioned at that, it's going to take some time to do that. There's no way nobody could be able to meet these guidelines without going into hospital the rest of their life, if not even further. And I agree that, yes, it's a base and it's a start and it opens up conversation and it gets us to that point. But I'm thinking that right now, the way you guys have that, it's just too far from being able to even come to any type of realistic proposal that could say it's ready to pass here even in the next 6 months. You're looking at a year to maybe 2 years depending on here to be able to do that. Because the big one is the fire. The next one's going to be the code, like you said. Then the next one's going to be zoning. And so you start looking at that, and as we all know, it's going to be different from county to county to county, and then from city to city to city, and then it's going to have to wrap around all of that and come, and it's going to have to meet state. So it looks like you're almost going to have to go to your agencies first, and you guys are going to have to sit down with them and say, well, what is it that we really want to go ahead and do here that's realistic? And then you guys are going to have to come up to a determination of saying, do we want it to be the same as a assisted living? Do we want it to be the same as a nursing home? And if that is the case, then that means exactly the funding is going to have to be there. Because again, we're making it into a commercial facility. That's no longer a home setting. That's why it was called boarding homes. And then rental homes, whatever the case may be. I mean, it's terms that have been used and tossed around and everything to try to, I feel, to circumvent what you guys are trying to do. That's my opinion. I'm not saying it's wrong. But I think at this point, no matter what the name is, I think that we have to come up with a determination of what is it going to take to provide safe care for these individuals, regardless of what you name it. But to do that, you're going to have to get on a uniform platform, and you can't just say, well, we're going to mandate this, and we're going to let the county do whatever they want, we're going to let the city do whatever they want, and we'll just go ahead and put ours down. It doesn't work that easy like that. It's going to have to be a joint venture for everybody throughout the state of New Mexico, city, counties, and states. When it comes to licensing, when it comes to zoning, when it comes to fire, when it comes to building code, all of those at a minimum are going to have to be somewhat standardized. If not, I feel that it's going to be realistic to really come up with a plan that's going to work. Because it's the same again as I had mentioned about the hairdressers. Hairdressers in New Mexico are required right now to have more regulation licensing that they got to meet to be able to cut a person's hair. But right now we don't even have regulation to care for a person. And so that's the reason why I'm saying they're required to go get a business license. If they're in the city, they go get a city license. If they're in the county, they go get a county license. If they're required one from state through the boards, they go and get one there. there's some type of standardization there when they come in and say, well, once a year you need to renew that license, we need to go and do a fire inspection. If you're in the county does the fire inspection. If you're in the city does the fire inspection. At the point there, to my knowledge, the state doesn't come in and do a fire inspection to renew that license for hairdressers. So I think that there's a lot of stuff on here that still needs to kind of get discussed and see how we're going to go about it. And like I'm saying here now, as I had mentioned about that I want to call it a hit list. And as I had mentioned about coming out here and prioritizing on what it is that you guys are seeing out there that's not working in the current inspections that you did, what is kind of working, what's your top 5 that you'd like to really get done, and see about making it again. Try to slowly but surely get to the point of saying we need to at least be able to have the minimum fire extinguisher. You know, we got to be able to have at least egress. We got to be able to have, like I said, if it's a handicap ramp that's needed. We got to be able to have smoke detector. As I had said, like that one there at Liz's one, for instance, when the guy said, well, you have a smoke detector, but you don't have a fire alarm. Well, that's the reason why he told her that. Because in a residential setting, you're going to have a fire alarm. But you're not, you can have a smoke detector, but a fire alarm only applies to a commercial building. And that's how come he was following a commercial template when we went in to do that inspection. Because a fire alarm only is in the setting of a commercial building where you have an actual fire sprinkler system. So that's the reason on why there's so much difference in there, where the language, yes, it's going to have to come down to that, and it does mean everything, every word means something, the same as window sizes, for instance, door sizes, hallway sizes. There's no way you're ever going to be able to say that you're going to blend again that apple to that orange. Because short of tearing the whole down each of these people that are currently having boarding homes or / rentals, they're going to almost have to tear down the complete home and rebuild them from ground up to be able to meet that current proposal you have in front of you today. And at that point, there's almost nobody that's probably going to be able to say, I'm going to do it, because there's no way it's going to be affordable at $700 a month. So that's why I said, and then the state going to say, no, well, you guys can go ahead and build the same rate. If you're going to follow the same rules as an assisted living and a nursing home, from care to building structure to fire, then why shouldn't they be able to build the same? So I thought those are a few of my thoughts. I don't want to take up too much time, because I could go on for 10 hours to tell you the truth here on a few things here. But those are a few things that I think that at minimum, that I think that you guys are also trying to achieve here. Basic safety for starters. So I think that's what's going to have to happen, is then almost I might have to say, well, that whole thing that you put in as far as the language that you propose, may have to just say, no, none of that can really apply here. We're going to actually have to start this from ground zero and start rewriting it to apply to the setting that it is today, and then start adding those few basic amenities in there. Well, not amenities, but safety features that it's going to take to be able to do that, and say, okay, well, maybe if for starters, again, as we had talked and we had mentioned about issuing temporary licenses. And then there you are with identifying, well, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do this here to be able to at least meet the basic safety. And then there it is. If it's every 90 days, every 6 months, they're coming back in, and you guys have to sit there saying, well, okay, you did that, you've been improving, you're doing that, and all this is documented. You know, carbon monoxide detector. Different things that you guys are looking for, which is, again, not wrong or anything. I'm all in favor of safety. But I think that right now, the way that is written, there's just too much there to even start to chew on right now, and think that we're going to get done in 6 months or a year with it. I mean, I do realize that they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. But I'll tell you what, we're not going to do that here today.
Okay, got a little audio issue there.
Yeah, so I think a few of the things that I wanted to, as far as just making a comment.
So, Ms. Ruma, I really appreciate your comments. Very helpful. Let me ask you this. If, from your perspective, what do you think that first bite of the elephant should be? What do you think are is a priority for the various proposals the Department of Health made?
Well, I think that I guess maybe probably starting off with actually, setting in a sense a mission statement. What is it that you're trying to achieve that's realistic? Is coming in here, identifying and saying, well, fire extinguishers, smoke detectors, being able to actually have egress out of their fire egress, out of the residential structures. I think that those are important.
I have a comment to that. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Hold on. Go ahead. Let me keep this clear. Let me just finish hearing from Mr. Rubin, and then the next gentleman we can hear from him.
Okay.
So again, going in and looking at that on there and saying, well, then if they want to go ahead and have those, just again, the same thing as if you stepped into your home. What are the things that when you step into your home, what does the state of New Mexico, what does your county say, and what does your city say are the minimums that you must have in your home? And then you alone on your own, what is it that you would say that, hey, well, I'm coming into my home, and this is why I sleep easy every night, because I know that I more or less have my basics covered. I know that if I need a fire ladder, I have that fire ladder. If I need a fire extinguisher here by the stove, I have one. I have a smoke detector. I have a carbon monoxide detector. I have this in my kids' room. I have that in my room. Things like that on there for starters on here. But coming in here and saying that they want to turn that into a commercial facility at $700 a month per client, that's just unrealistic. There's no way that's ever going to happen. And then the other thing that I had kind of in here, the next thing I was going to mention is that you were saying that this would cover homes and that here now, but for instance, it would exclude motel rooms, for instance. So in other words, if a client went to a motel room and he would be exempt, there would be nobody to say who's going to make sure that guy's safe in that room. There's nobody else going to go and inspect that room. That's not going to fall under this category. So then how is that fair to the rest of them that are trying to do it here and do it legally? And all of a sudden a guardian could say, I'm going to go ahead and just stick my client in there in a motel. I don't even know if they're meeting code or not, but you know what? That doesn't qualify for licensure. So I'm thinking that what's going to have to happen on here also is a basic. And as I thought about this, is I wondered, number one, as I had mentioned, a client should not be released if he doesn't have an ID. Number two, that's where it has to start right there. Which means then that comes back to your agency. Things out there, if it's a behavioral health, or if it's any of the other facilities that are state-run, or if it's even a private facility. That's where they're going to have to say, okay, well, we in a sense now have to go ahead and create a document with a checklist and make sure, okay, as he starts moving out of the facility, all the boxes are checked there. This is so-and-so, he's got an ID, all that's been checked out. He's here on Social Security, whatever the case may be. Then from there, well, where's he going? And then from there, there's going to be a little box in there to fill out in there and say exactly, well, did they check for fire? Did they check for this? Did they check for that? So that the state of New Mexico actually knows where each and every client is going and what condition or what the home's in and have they met licensure. So we don't all of a sudden say we're protecting 80%, but the 20% that are going out there, the motel rooms and stuff, they're not even considered. So if we're going to save 100 lives, we're going to save all 100, not just 80 of them. And that's the reason, for example, and that's the reason why I'm looking at, there's still a lot of different loopholes here that could be tightened up. The other thing that happens is, for instance, again, that client that's in the motel room, all of a sudden, who's following up for that guy? Who's ensuring that this guy's getting to his appointment, getting his medication, taking his medication, and all the other stuff, but then you want to go ahead and tell the boarding home/renters, well, you got to ensure he's taking his medication. You got to make sure he gets to his appointment. You got to look at doing these different services. And as you had mentioned you did ask, well, what services do you want to provide? But again, I think that this what's happening here, we're really talking safety. That's where we're losing a lot of our clients out there. Because we don't have no follow-up from the guardianship of New Mexico. We don't have no oversight there really, I guess, either, to say, I know that there's been calls that I personally have made on clients that I know around town, things that are going on with them, and there's been no follow-up to this day from 3-4 years later. And some serious things. Some of them even turned into some of the lawsuits that you guys actually have experienced, which is brought us here today. I was actually spoke to the AG's office, the Attorney General's office, I was actually asked a lot of questions from that office about certain clients that were going through some of the things they were going through. And I look at it here at this point is, we're really going to talk safety. Let's look at the really big picture again, that whole puzzle, every piece. Because if we're only going to start it, we're only going to look at the home and say that we want to try to go ahead and say it's up to the responsibility of that operator to be responsible for everything. I think at this point, we're not even starting to do justice. We're just masking it just so we could say we did something. To me, if I'm going to do something, just do it all the way, or just don't do it at all, I guess is my point. Because I don't want to be part of anything that's mediocre. And that's kind of the reason why I'm saying that, again, it starts right there, right at the facility when they're coming out and having all the basics. So that you don't have that same revolving door of a client coming out, 20 days later he's back, then he's out, then he's back, and all of a sudden it's like, well, why is that happening? Is he not getting the care that he needs? Or is it just a revolving door so that they can keep billing for beds back and forth and to get, billing during the shuffle, or what's the case there? But not only that, that way that form is there, it's going to start to show a pattern eventually. It's going to start to say exactly what an operator says, either to a law enforcement officer, to a medical staff professional. Look at the history here, for instance, of this plan. You guys are leaving him behind here because he's already been addressed for this 4 times in the last 90 days. Again, patterns tell us a lot of things in life. And that's what's not happening right here. It's like I've seen almost, and I use the term, they dropped him off the next day after a 24-hour. I've had a guy, a client, threatening suicide. When sat with him on my own time and everything, just as a volunteer, concerned citizen, went out there to the hospital, sat with him talking, got him in there, went to crisis, the whole 9 yards. They checked him into the state hospital, and the next morning, there they are dropping him off at a rolling 30. Nothing at all. And I'm like, wow. He just said threatened suicide last night, and not even 8 hours later here by 8 a.m. the next morning. It's like they haven't even slowed down to let him out.
And thank you, Mr. Roybal. I appreciate the perspective. I think that helps understand. I would like to focus a little more on the proposed rules. Understood. Absolutely understand. So there was a gentleman who wanted to weigh in earlier. Who was that?
Yes, my name is Carlos Crispin. I'm an operator here in Las Vegas, New Mexico.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so my question is, I want to know, how are you guys expecting for us to meet any of your criteria that you guys have right now in the rule, based off what we're getting paid currently? How are we supposed to meet all those guidelines with the amount of money that we're getting paid at the moment? Because, and the reason why I ask that is because right now, we're providing them with a bed. They have their utilities included, and they have basic hygiene products, basically kind of like a hotel. And we included like a continental breakfast with that. Now, on the rules that you guys are trying to propose, it seems like there's a lot more that's wanted from the state in regards to instrumental activity of daily living, assistance with different, stuff throughout the day. So if we're not providing that, we're not getting paid for that currently. What are you guys going to do for us if we want to get licensed to provide those services to these residents? Because right now the rules moving forward, but we're stuck where we're at, and financially, like nothing's coming anywhere. We're not getting any more money. It is where it's at, and so everything's moving forward, and we're just kind of stuck. The rules, the rules got proposed. We're having a hearing today. We understand that you guys want to make some changes, but I mean, there's no money. And like, for instance, right now, with the crisis that we're going through, the governor ordered this issue about, people stay safe, don't let people have more than 5 people in your home, and, we're here, again, with no help, no assistance, trying to get to the grocery stores, trying to get what they need, and we can't get what they need. There's not any money. That's just kind of like stuff like that kind of bothers me because people want change, but no one wants to help us either.
Understood. We'll certainly give Department of Health an opportunity to respond to that question. You don't have to. You certainly have an opportunity if you wish.
Okay. Yeah, that was the start of my question.
Okay, thank you. So, Elizabeth made a comment. I have Holmes. Do you care to talk about that anymore, Elizabeth?
So you know what? I guess Carlos, what he was saying about, a lot of people are charging $700, and then a lot of these guardians came back and started saying, they'll only pay $650. So right now I'm just getting $650 for 2 clients that I do receive, and that comes up in a day it's about $21.66, 65, and then I'm sure they pay that to a team. So it's actually like $21, $22 a day that we receive for the clients. So here we have to, with that amount, we have to provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and also, I don't do home health. They do get their home health through the agency, and with the agency, other agencies, they come in and do all that stuff and take care of, their cleaning and whatever else. I switch to whatever it is, and I'm here and stuff, but and all of that, it's 24/7. I asked you for 24/7 care for $21. Okay, let's look at $2, $3 a day. How am I supposed to be a routine license and to even charge at the 700 and even I have 3 other jobs I have to work to actually meet all this, and that's really the truth. That I have children that I have to raise too. So I'm not sure. Maybe if you guys can help us out. I would love to be licensed. I really would. And, in reality, really, it's $21, $22 a day. Let everybody go to work 24/7 on that.
I certainly understand what you're saying. I don't have much I can do about how much you get paid. Are any of the regulations that you're seeing particularly expensive to comply with that you think are not reasonable, or any other comments on the proposed regulations?
Well, this is Carlos Crispin again, but the building code, for instance, I have the building code. I've had people from the Department of Health come out to my facility as well to look at it, and it's not the best, but it's far from the worst. But the way my house is set up, I have no way of meeting the building code that you guys have proposed on the rules and regulations. And in the past, when I did have a business license to Las Vegas, New Mexico, my business license was actually revoked because they told me that I didn't meet criteria for fire code and I didn't meet criteria for environmental code, which were basically commercial findings that they had on me, and I couldn't meet them. I couldn't do it. So they told me to turn in my business license and to operate as a rental facility based off of what we were charging them. And I guess at that time they thought we were charging the clients like $1,500 per month, which is not true. We, like Elizabeth Montero said, we get on average $650 a month. And at that point, we had to turn in our business license because we couldn't even comply with environmental code and fire marshal code. So I just don't understand how we're gonna even be able to get our homes up to par if we don't even have the means and the money to do it.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Christine. And Ms. McClay, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, and then I did want to add one more thing. So, I noticed that this rule is kind of going towards kind of mental health. We're taking care of mental health clients. What do you guys do about people that aren't mentally disabled, that are living here literally renting a room? They're like literally renting a room, and they're not mentally disabled. They don't go to CBS. They don't get medication. They didn't come from BHI. Where do they fall in the midst of all this? That's another question I have.
Okay, so let's move on to if anyone else an opportunity to let us know.
Well, if nobody else, I just want to reiterate again exactly just like Elizabeth and Carlos have stated and as I have stated, it's almost going to be having to go back to ground zero. There's no way that current legislation or even documents that you currently have that you're proposing, there's no way you're ever going to get a residential structure to meet a commercial code. And that's exactly why right now it's unrealistic the way it is there's going to either have to be rewritten or it's definitely going to have to be some severe cutting and adding to be able to make it work because there's no way it ever will meet other than short of tearing those structures down and everybody starting from ground zero and doing a commercial structure. So I just want to go ahead and just reiterate again that that's again the start right there. Exactly. You know, septic tank, sewer, code, fire, business license if it's required. You know, a business license, be it from the county, be it from the state, be it from the city, is only a license that say you're allowed to do business in that area. It has nothing to do as far as the regulation of the exact business. That's exactly what you're trying to establish here today and wanting to do is now this will be a license for this type of business. So there's a difference in that, and I think that for today, and even now, I think that's where we're going to have to start at. Because I think you guys are going to have to go back, and you may have to even go ahead. I know it was convenient, and I know you guys were under the gun, and I know that's the reason why you had to piggyback off of that existing legislation that was put in place for licensure on, again, assisted living and nursing homes. But we all know that there ain't a boarding home here in New Mexico that I've seen that is operating that same structure like an assisted living or a nursing home. And it's unrealistic to think that it can be done, again, with the fees that are being paid and with the structures that are in place. That had never been the intention of a boarding home. The intention of a boarding home was to be able to give a client a home-type environment, to be able to, not a commercial-type environment, a home-type of environment, and be able to still make a safe environment, and yet still have somebody there to a degree to be able to at least just say, how are you doing today? Are you okay? But not saying that there was something that said it was required or it was law, just on their own. Then you have mentioned here, first, second, third generations already work, the families that are doing this, it's because they care about other people, and that's why they're willing to do that in their homes versus saying, I want to do it only as commercial, I want to leave at 5 o'clock, and I want to go home. That was never the purpose of a boarding home. So I just want to go ahead and just put that on the record also.
Thanks, sir. I appreciate that.
This is Carlos Crispin again. I have another comment to make, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so another opposition in regards to licensing our homes right now is, so I'm sure you guys all talk between like taxation and revenue, and I'm talking about this because we're going through this right now. So right now we're getting taxed. Well, they're trying to get us taxed. They're trying to go back 9 years, which I've been in operation myself. My parents have been 32 years. I've been doing it now for 9 years, but they're trying to go back 9 years on our homes and tax us 100% gross receipt taxes for the amount of money that we're charging them for rent. And basically the bills are up to like $89,000 to $90,000. And we're trying to figure out how the state is trying to figure out that the way we're operating with the amount of money we're charging, I mean $650 is taxable for service. How is that 100% taxable for service? So basically, right now, I know you guys don't have anything to do with the financial part of it, but if any of the homes say, okay, I'm going to get licensed, I'll try it out, you're basically hanging yourself because then you're going to be pushed to have to follow all these little rules of having to provide this and provide that to the client. And then you're also going to throw yourself into a commercial facility, which you're going to be taxed on. And that's, for me, that's another $1,047 a month. That's not even one of the tenants' rent check. That's like 2 rent checks right there. That we'd have to pay on a monthly basis to taxation and revenue for gross receipt taxes. And that's again get that we want to move forward, and yeah, no, I don't think anyone's opposed to getting a license. I think everybody wants to, so that way we can be left alone, and that way we can watch over whatever. But the big problem is if we do that, well, and there's going to be fees added to your monthly ledger, to your monthly bills, to become licensed as a boarding home. And for instance, that's one of them. And that's what I'm just trying to grasp my head around, what's being asked from us to do for these clients, and what's fair. Like, what's fair for what they're paying us. What should we provide for the amount of money that they're paying us.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Christine. Want to make sure if anyone else who wanted to speak an opportunity. I haven't seen anyone pop up in chat. Was there anyone who has not yet had an opportunity to speak who wants to weigh in? I did say I would go back to Ms. Silverman. Ms. Silverman, did you want to weigh in? Do you have anything you want to say?
No, thank you. Well, let me just say one thing. When we're talking about licensure, and our agency went and created some legislation several years ago that had to do with discharge from the state hospital only to licensed boarding homes. We had lots and lots of meetings. This passed the legislature unanimously. If in fact you decide to go ahead and do this licensure, and I hear what all of these people are saying, and I understand the difficulty. I mean, it's almost impossible to have expectations that anyone would be able to follow up on all these regulations and without the assistance of the state. But if the state hospital is not discharging people to licensed boarding homes, where on earth are they going to discharge folks, especially now? I mean, all of these things need to be taken into consideration. We have people that come and visit us from the boarding homes, and they talk about having to share bedroom spaces. I mean, for goodness sake, right now we're told that we need to have 6 feet between people. And boarding homes, I'm sure, are taking in people because that's what they do. Now, many of them are really doing good work. I'm not saying that they're not, but I would not want to be in a house myself right now with 3, 4, 5 people in a communal area. So, I mean, all of this, can't we just put this aside for now? Can this be done? I mean, we're talking about doing something in June. We don't even know if we're going to be able to go out into the community. I mean, I work every day because I have an obligation to see the people who we do housing with, and this is a different type of housing. It is not a boarding home. And so we need to provide reassurance to folks. These are people with mental illness. They're very fragile, and they need to be supported. And a lot of these boarding home people are doing that at this time. So I'm asking if we can, as the state, I mean, I understand this has been going on for years. I think this needs to be put aside and dealt with when we all can sit down and talk to each other face to face. Thank you.
Ms. Silverman, which agency are you with, or organization?
I'm the Mental Health Association of New Mexico. We do crisis housing. It's quite different than boarding homes.
Thank you.
Okay. If there are any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them right now.
I appreciate your input, and who you represent.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch them.
So I appreciate your input. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Does the state have any responses or any comments they want to make on the testimony so far? No, I've taken notes, and I appreciated the input that everybody has put forth on the phone call. There's a lot to do and a lot to consider. Each one of the bullet points that people put up. What I would highly recommend also is if you're looking at the order or the proposed rules, there are any specific
specific comments as we go through, with not thinking of the operations and some of the ticket items, which is fire code issues and that we're going to definitely have to consider and talk about with the hearing officer as we put this in how we answer these questions we guys put forth. Is there any other comments on the key things that we wanted, maybe written comments that you could put in today would be about the scope of services. So people have mentioned things around the population you're serving. What's the difference between somebody off the street and somebody that's being released from a facility? And I think that's really important to look at that particular section. And if there are any other comments in general about, and I'm not talking about the codes and things like that. I'm talking about if you guys could, and everybody has a copy of this, any issues around some of the other elements of this of being able to be in compliance. Things like, I'm not talking about changes of ownership or waivers. I'm talking about areas that might be like staff training. So if you look at the staff requirements, if all these other things we were able to address with the staff requirements of who your staff is and how they're trained, would that work for you guys? Your personnel policies, requirements of ratios of how many people you have taking care of people in the room. Some of those more little smaller details, if anybody has feedback to provide written guidance for us to help look at these rules and analyze these. Also, in particular, another good area would be program services. They had talked about reimbursement tied to program services. Are the program services outlined in here? And appointments. Too rigid or up in those sections. Plans, your service plans. Some facilities had plans, some did not. The language that we've crafted in here, does that fit with those of you that are doing it, and those of you that are working? That's something that's realistic. And you need to tear that apart and see what would be the best. If we were to go on site, what would show that you guys are doing that work? Resident records, how you would keep them. Finally, the resident rights section is very important for you guys to look at. And of course, nutrition and food, and then the medical section and infection control. But look at those, if you guys would, and even if it's a brief note where you didn't like something, you could highlight it, and you would prefer, let's say, food service. It's not 3 times a day. We could do 1 time a day, and it would be the breakfast meal, but they would be responsible for the other 2 meals. If we could have those kind of comments, so that those would go to the hearing officer, so that those can be analyzed. So if you guys could take the time to look at some of those not as big items as things that on how you currently operate, adapting these, just what you're doing more now. And if we could get those comments, that would be really helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Burmeister.
I'd like to make a few comments regarding those issues that were just spoken about on here. I was going to kind of wait till the end on some of those, but yeah, I would say again, from my opinion, I'm going to have to go back to reiterating that if they are not able to currently even be able to make it profitable and able to work right now today at $650 to $700 a month, how can we add even one more item to that and think we're going to get more out of those operators and they're going to be able to afford it? First of all, I would have to say, again, the client that's getting released over back to the hotel.
Right.
Well, if that client can't even cook for himself, I feel he shouldn't even have been discharged. And he shouldn't have been able to be discharged to a hotel, number one. Because then this is another issue. We talk about fire. All right, well, then all of a sudden, you're going to have a mentally disabled person, for instance, depending on the level of a disability, will he be able to operate a fire extinguisher in the time of need? Who's responsible for that training? Will he be able to ever obtain the level that it would take to be able to properly go ahead and use one of those? These are other concerns there. So now that goes back to what you had mentioned about, you have to have staff there 24/7. Well, that alone right now, you can't even have staff right now with what they're getting paid today, you can't even have staff doing the extra period. Most of these operators are the ones doing the work themselves. They're the ones making the dinners and the lunches and the breakfast if that's what they choose to do or if that's what's included in their agreement. But I think that I do agree that staff training is there. You know, I can say that I know Liz and we've been involved, and I know they come down here with the Coalition of New Mexico, which offers free training. They give continuing education hours. We continue to look at that, the Red Cross, etc. A lot of these places that do give training that would help to get staff on there. I agree with that. I agree with policy and procedures on there and stuff like that. Then again, when you start looking at personal information, I've always thought that the operators should be able to know a little bit more than they are being told when these clients are being released when they have a mental disability for their own safety. But yet then that gets into a whole other gamut of insurance, security, proper security, which again I'm just reiterating that it costs more money. So these are things that are going to have to look at as far as I think they're great ideas, but I don't know if they're going to be feasible at the rate that they're getting paid today. And that's the reason why, again, appointments. There's no way that you could even throw 1 or 2 appointments a month per client on that operator and think that they can fetch $200 to $300 more a month than they're currently getting, so they can't even make it today. So that's another concern right there. If it's in theory on paper, it's real nice. But in reality, it's not, because it's not feasible. And if it's not feasible, then chances are it's not going to happen. And it's fine to dictate it, but again, it's not going to happen. And right now, currently, I don't even know if the state has enough, I would say, policemen to come and police that up to ensure it's happening.
Right.
So then again, they're going to have to go back and looking then, for instance, right now there's a conflict again now between, for instance, PTO hours, for instance. Well, can an operator go ahead and collect rent and be able to also do PTO hours to help them to provide some of these services? There's certain federal and state agencies that are saying, no, you can't do that. There's others that they're allowing people to do it, and they're not even telling them nothing. Right now, there's people that are guardians and KEs, and they're turning around and they're actually owning structures. They're putting their clients in those structures, and they're actually triple dipping them. And there's nothing being done about that. Are those homes going to be inspected? Are they going to fall under this? These are all things I think we need to look at before we actually look at that. I have to, this is Ms. Silverman, I have to agree with her that, again, I'm going to go back to this is not ready for any type of action today.
Okay. Thank you. Let me,
Excuse me, this is Carlos. Can I have another comment to make? I'm actually gonna dismiss myself from the conversation. I have to get busy here at home working, but I just wanted to make this comment. I'm not opposed to getting a license. I've always thought, how can this be better for me? Because this is my livelihood. This is what I make my life with. This is how I live. This is how I pay my bills. This is how I pay my health insurance. You know, this is the way I live. So I've always wanted to look at it for a long-term goal and see, you know, how is this going to succeed for the next 20 years, 25 years. But right now, at this moment, I can't even make any comments or any suggestions to any of the rules that you guys are proposing or making, because at the end of the day, the first step that the Department of Health needs to make in order for us to decide if we want to even stay in this business is to tell us, is there going to be a flat rate that we can bill to provide the services that are included in the rule, and also that's going to give us a chance to look at our financial situation and say, okay, so now they're gonna offer us, I'm just throwing numbers out there, now they're going to pay us $1,500 a month to take care of each resident. And if we do that and we have a certain amount of, you know, our limit that we can keep in our home, are we going to be able to afford to possibly go refinance our current mortgage, if anyone has one? I know I do. To refinance a mortgage to possibly bring your home up to code. And right now, I don't see any of that possible. I can't go pull out a mortgage. I don't show that I'm making any money to go pull out a mortgage, second mortgage to bring my home up to par to the code. So at this time and point in time, I can't even comment on, you know, like Chris mentioned a while ago about the staffing and stuff. The only reason why it's working right now is because like for instance, our family's been doing this for 3 generations. We know exactly what we got to do to take cuts and how to make it work. So like my mom and dad, husband and wife, they work it. They're there 24/7. My uncle, my aunt, same thing. They work it. Their kids are involved. They help around. It's just, and if you think about wanting to get off from work, then you gotta go hire someone that's gonna come in and charge you $15 an hour to come and work for you 24 hours a day while you're gone for 5 days or 4 days, whatever you want to try and take off, which is, if you even can, which is really doesn't exist in our lives. But it's just, everything just sounds impossible to me. So at this point, I'm opposed to getting a license without knowing if there's going to be any kind of change in the financial situation, because right now I can't even say, I'll get a license because I feel like I'm hanging myself. And I'm going to be pushed and forced to follow rules, and the money's going to stay the same, and I'm going to be, I'm probably going to be in a worse situation than I'm already in now. So, I've been in contact with Chris. He knows who I am. He's been to my home. So have some of the other, investigators from DOH. I'm willing to speak after this, later on at a later time. Right now, my concern is keeping my clients safe right now. The ones that are living in the home right now, that's my concern, is to keep them safe from the virus that's going out in the community. And I hope that at the end of all this, we can, just somehow prove to the Department of Health we know what we're doing. We keep our people safe. They're safe and they're not sick and they're not dying. And I know there's a lot of concerns right now. Like, the reason why these rules are being pushed is because people have gotten hurt in the community, people have died in the home, but I still don't see how a license is going to stop any of those natural, causes. Those are disasters that happen regardless. I mean, I've had some stuff happen here at home. I mean, not death, but some situations that I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, I'm gonna get out of the conversation because I got to get back to work. But I will be more than willing to look at getting licensed or making a step forward in the situation of getting licensed if there's a number that I know we can work with. Because if not, then it doesn't make no sense to say I'm gonna get licensed. So I'm gonna say goodbye for now. Like I said, I gotta get back to work.
Okay, I appreciate that, Mr. President.
Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. I had a number of questions to the Department of Health. Would it be more for me to submit those by letter? I know hearing officers do that sometimes. Have you answered
With
them?
your comment letter.
With
your comment letter, yes.
With
the recommendation letter?
Yeah. Well, but I have questions that I want to hear answers to first. I ask those of you now, because I know hearing officers have followed it up in the past.
No, send those to us so we can submit those answers to you.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So I will do that, in the next day. And then you can address those, and then I can be working on mine.
So we're not going to just start with the comment.
Understood, and that's why I asked that. All right, so we've heard a lot. Is there anyone we haven't heard from? Speak up now. This will be your chance. I do see comments from Ms. Garcia, so appreciate those, and those will be recorded.
Yeah.
Elizabeth from Montreal. I have a question. With the licensing, a lot of these homes have everybody lives under one roof. I do not. I have my own personal home, and I have 3 other homes behind, on the side of me and behind me. And so I'm not sure how they would even license me. I mean, each home I've had fire marshal come in. I've upgraded everything they told me. I've upgraded. I've done everything they've asked me to do. I've done that. The only thing of licensing, how would they license me with the 3 homes that I would use? I mean, there's only one that's really actually being used right now that 2 people, each individual have their own bedroom. And how would I get licensed to get, you know, in a one home facility? I mean, is it each home has to be licensed on its own, or what is it that has?
That's a good question. I actually think maybe there's a little clarification is needed on that because I had a question on that too. So we'll try to get that clarified. You're saying that your other three homes are adjacent to your home you live in? Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're behind me. They're not connected or anything, but they are on my land.
Okay.
They're on my land, and so there's three individual homes. You know, one's an apartment, the one's a mobile home, the other one's an RV, but we made it into, when we're making the structure now as a one home, it's actually, as a home now, everything, I've extended it, walls and stuff like that, and done a lot of upgrades on it. So I'm not sure how it would be licensed. Each individual would be licensed, and how much to each home, or I don't know.
Right. Okay. So we'll try to make sure that's addressed.
Okay.
Okay. So last chance to hear from anybody.
No, we haven't applied.
Okay. So we're just gonna.
I guess I was, if nobody else was ready to speak, I would like to say one thing here in regards also to add this to what Elizabeth was saying there. I know that it was brought up there under some of the legislation that you're proposing there, where it was mentioned about RV / if it was mobile home, and you guys were kind of in the opinion of that mobile homes were not going to be allowed to be able to house clients, and I guess I think that kind of needs to be looked at because I guess for instance, if a mobile home was good enough for me to live in, why wouldn't it be good enough for a client to live in? I don't know why they would, in a sense, I'm not saying is there something better or worse, and I guess that's what we're trying to define here today. What is the minimum? Is that going to be allowed? If I was to go ahead and want to open a boarding home, could I, exercise that option, or is that, that's off the table immediately? And if so, why?
Okay. So, sorry, Ms. Washburn, are you saying we need to keep this live until 5? Or?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It is a 3-hour hearing.
Oh, okay.
People can leave and submit some comments. They can.
Okay. Oh, fair enough. All right. So
that means we have more time to talk.
You have more time to talk.
All right. Well, maybe let's go ahead and touch base a little bit here on this training. I think that's something that's more just documentation and literature. Well, that's not something that immediately wouldn't be something that wouldn't be possible to do. So that at least that right there is ensuring that are knowledgeable. We have people that are coming in contact with clients that are knowledgeable and saying, well, maybe establishing, is it 20 hours of continuing education? Is it 40 per year that an operator also would have to have in conjunction to a renewal on a license? I think that's something that could be also put in there that doesn't cost very much money, and it actually then would also encourage every operator to stay in tune with their business, learn new rules, new regulation, new techniques, new funding sources, new grants. I mean, anything that would be out there. As I said, the New Mexico Caregivers Coalition is an excellent resource that helps out with a lot of that stuff, and it's provided for free. So it's almost that you just put in your time. They're even willing to come to your community and provide these trainings. So I would say that was something in here that wouldn't be an immediate expense, and yet it would even go ahead and help to make each facility a little bit safer by having knowledgeable personnel there. The other thing is meals. We were talking about meals, service plans, and possibly programs. Again, we had an article that ran here not too long ago on how our local newspaper felt that it was the operator responsible to keep clients busy all day long and provide programs for them and keep them busy so they wouldn't be at the local department store laboring, asking for money, doing drugs, doing alcohol, whatever the case. And I just don't understand where they got that notion that it is the operator's responsibility. Because number one, if you are going to provide some of that stuff, again, train staff There's going to have to be people actually that might even need additional credentialing depending on what you're going to do with some of those programs. Then again, if it's an off-site program and you start looking at transportation, now the operator is looking at more expense, insurance, liability, etc., proper transportation, X amount of miles, etc., to get out there and back, and then also always having to take into consideration what it is as far as their health needs. Can they make this trip? Can they not make this trip, etc.? So I think that might be something that's going to be a little bit more expense that might, again, wouldn't be feasible right now because there's just no money for that. On the meals, that goes back to another question there is, currently a lot of the clients that I have encountered go and usually apply for food stamps. So I ask them sometimes, did you eat today? Because usually I'm the type of general that said, I'm not one that I won't give money to people anymore. But if they need a meal, I'll certainly pull over, I'll get them to a restaurant, I'll pay for a meal for them if that's what they really need and that's what they desire and that's what their real true goal. But I don't understand sometimes when they say, I get food stamps, but then I get meals at the home. So sometimes I think that's going to have to get looked at also so that they can come up with one type of uniformity across the board. If they're going to be on food stamps, does that mean they're going to be required to cook their own meals? Or if it's going to be that they're getting their meals provided, then that means they're going to have to probably pay more on that monthly amount, and they're going to have to then go ahead and have the meals prepared for them. So that kind of right there has been something there where, again, different agencies are saying different things. Some are saying, no, you can't do that. Others are saying, no, if they're getting the food stamps, you're going to let them cook their own food, especially if we're giving them food benefit. They got to cook their own food. Others are saying, well, no, if you're going to provide them meal, we'll let them go and take both. But it's almost impossible, as we know today, the average human being cannot even go out and have a meal for less than $10 a day, a meal. That's the average, $10 a meal on the low end. That's even not including tip or anything else. So again, if that operator is getting $21 to $23 roughly a day there, how are they going to provide 3 meals if the average meal is $10 anywhere in America today? That's $30 alone just for meals. So I think that's going to have to get really looked at on there and say, where are we going to do that with existing resources that we have? So if it's going to be through food stamps, if it's going to be through other agencies that they can apply for. I know I've had to even also, I've delivered food to different clients from food banks and stuff like that. I actually donate my time also at the local food banks. And so this is why I also come in contact with a lot of these clients. And I think that sometimes that's unreasonable to even think sometimes that even for $21 a day, how you could even afford to give them one meal and still pay all the other expenses you have on there. You can't even give them a toothbrush either. I mean, all of these things seem petty, but at the end of the month, they all add up. And again, if operators force us, what do I pay first? Do I give them all these different things, or do I pay the water? Do I pay the gas? Do I pay the electricity? I mean, these are things also where I know that, for instance, I've recommended to some of the, I'll say like Elizabeth's home, water savers. Going there, putting different faucets in there, low-flow toilets, different things, and some of this upgrade she's already done. And I said, this will help to conserve your bill. But the kind of what's been happening also is she's been saving, but then in return, the city's just been raising prices on utilities. I mean, we just had an increase on our water and our trash. P&M has a raise on here a couple of years ago. So it's like, you can't even catch up with the raises that are coming from the utility company and still think you're going to be able to stay in business 5-6 years down the road. So I think that there's a lot of things here that really got to get looked at as far as some of them. I guess I understand you guys. I know you guys would, and I wish it was that easy where you guys could just say, I just want to deal with licensure only. But that's just unrealistic to think that that's the only thing you guys are going to be able to deal with and really think that you really made a difference. Because all you did is provide and say, we have a document in that operator's hands that says now, we're allowed to go into your home whenever we want. That right there alone is not enough to say, that's why I would go ahead and say if I was an operator that I would get licensed. Because the fact of the matter is right now, they're not licensed. They do have certain rights. Once they go into a licensure, that does change the rights also. So changes a lot of things. And that's how come I've instructed and a lot of people that I talk to say, you gotta look at this real closely. And I think for that reason, these are things also that need to get looked at on there. I mean, you guys have mentioned like doing a staff training and not staff training, 24-hour. Where again, is that going to be just anybody that's leaving, has a heartbeat, is allowed to be there, actually in a sense, babysit and just be there 24 hours a day? Or is it going to be, for instance, like at a nursing home or boarding or in a nursing or an assisted living where, well, they have to at least be a CNA. They have to have X amount of training, or maybe it's right underneath the CNA and striving to be a CNA. Are they going to be required in there where you're saying out there that there may have to be a nurse available also to do medications and stuff? That was another thing that was looked at under the licensure. It was the operator responsible for medications. Well, right now we know that that's right there, a very gray area. That's a lot of liability right there. So, again, a nurse. I don't know any nurses that work for even less than almost $35 an hour. And then to think that you're going to be able to employ one by yourself, you're almost, like I said, like other agencies, other homes that are doing it, where you have what they call a revolving nurse, going to different locations and everybody's splitting the bill. Even in my opinion, that's a gray area there, because when something does happen, boy, an attorney's going to have a field day with that one. And that's the reason on how come I look at it here is sometimes, as Ms. Silverman has said on here, you post so many things on here, is it realistic to think that you're going to get them? I don't know. I don't see it here with the way it's written today. I have to agree that it's not there. I mean, here that she had mentioned where you have people in homes now and something like this hit that we're going through right here today. What's even protocol on that? There's not even nothing listed really inside there in the existing legislation today of what a boarding home would be required to do. What actions are they required to do under like exactly the different steps from state of emergency to home quarantine to different things like that, where all of a sudden here you have somebody that has a disability and you're trying to tell them, I don't want to violate your civil rights, but you almost have to stay on property or at least in the home and stay away from others. And there he is wanting to be right on top of somebody and stealing a cigarette out of his mouth and share it with him. And it's like, they don't know better. But there they are, continuous, where you're almost having to literally stand there for almost 6-7 hours to ensure it doesn't happen, because there could be contamination right there and spreading viruses and et cetera and stuff. So these are things here that, again, some of the clients have, unfortunately, and I've stated this before, and the moment I've seen it, they're not ready to be released out to a facility without 24-hour care. And that also is something, again, that I go back to the facility, if it's state or private or whichever, that has to be able to fill in those boxes, per se, to say they meet the criteria to be able to be out on their own. Or they meet the criteria to be in a medium setting, or a very low setting where it's almost no supervision. There almost has to be that type of criteria because every one of those conditions are a little bit different. Then again, just like Mr. Crispina said, down to the one who maybe wants to just be somebody right off the street with no disabilities, and he wants to rent a room. Is he okay then to be able to rent with existing clients, or is he required at that time that he has to be in a separate location? So there's other things that have to be explored. So that, again, the operator has to look at all options to be able to bring income into their facility. So with that, I would say that, I don't know on the stage here, has there been anything more on your end that you guys have gone in there as far as talking to the environmental officials, fire officials, building code, I mean, tax and revenue? I mean, has any of this been explored as far as on the state end?
Yes, the Secretary of Health has engaged, as stated before. We don't have what the findings were and what's going on. The important focus was the rules, and but those meetings are continuing to occur.
Okay. Is there will be such a time that those will be available for a review, or?
I assume, I don't know what the process of the Secretary's office is working on that. Our part is just the engagement of building the rules and getting testimony from the community, on how we need to change these and edit these. And I'll make sure those comments go back to the secretary.
So also here, being that I couldn't get the video to work either, and I'm on the phone, I'm going to ask the question, is everybody who's at this hearing and being represented here today, is that primarily all from Las Vegas, New Mexico? Is there anybody else that's not from Las Vegas that's an operator in the group? So I take it then that it's only Las Vegas. Was this hearing only for Las Vegas, or was this for the entire state?
No, this is for statewide, sir. This is a statewide rule.
That's what I thought. I'm just surprised that only the people from Las Vegas are even here engaging in this, when we know that there's these types of facilities all over the state. I'm very surprised. Very surprised.
So, let me back up a little. Do you have the proposed rule in front of you there?
You know what? I'm looking for it actually right now, because I'll tell you, with everything that's been going on here with this virus, I've been a little hectic here. But I'm trying to get my copy right now, actually. So I made some notes on it.
All right. If you find that, I'm curious if you would look at page 16 on my copy, but it's 7.8.4.36. Acceptable criteria for admission, and go through those and see if there's anything you think should be added to that.
You think on admission?
The criteria for admission, there's proposed criteria for admission. I'm wondering if there's anything you think should be added to that.
Okay, I'm having trouble hearing you said admission, AD?
Correct, sir. Criteria for...
Yeah, and I was going to touch on that next, as I had mentioned in the last meeting, again, admission packet. I do agree with that somewhat. I don't know if it has to be as lengthy as, a nursing home and assisted living. I guess that would be determined, again, by the criteria that's set for the licensure on how many pages and what needs to be covered. But I totally agree with that also. I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think, again, that template, again, in all your boxes, I think that it should be there. There should be a file. There should be documentation. And I think it also has to include, where it could include all of that on there, who their doctor is, who they're seeing for counseling service, who they're seeing as far as what facility they came out of, who's their next of kin, all of that stuff in there. And I think that, insurances, who's getting paid, et cetera, all that stuff. I brought that up at the last meeting where exactly, I think that an admission packet definitely is warranted. Again, that's not something that's asking for too much to say that that's going to cost a lot of money. I don't think it's going to be tremendous amounts of money. And I guess at that point, that could be something that maybe, again, back to that first step, possibly, where you do have an admission package that not only does this go and it applies only to the operator. Again, that admission packet needs to be also applying to all of the people that are involved in the care, so that you have that checks and balances again. This way we know that client is getting care and safety all the way around, not just when he's at the boarding home or the rental, whatever it wants to be called. But that's why it also has to have all of the other people involved in there too. Because again, there's been many times trying to get services for these clients, and there's no way that we have any advocacy on our side to be able to tell state officials and state social workers and all of this on here, you know what, you need to listen to us. You need to try to get this done. We're telling you there is a concern here, and they brush it off. They don't have to even make a report. They don't have to do anything, and it just goes unattended. And it doesn't get any attention, so it's either on the news or on the front page. And then it's the operator's fault, of course. Not always. And that's why I say that. Exactly, I do agree with that admission packet.
Well, that one, this is good. I mean, Dominic was typing out something there, and I do agree with Dominic. I think one of the things when I'm going to get a discharge out of the state hospital or any hospital, what I do ask him is that they should ask permission from, because they're the ones that are advocating a lot for this one client to get him discharged and get him in a place. And they're the ones that are talking to guardianship and everybody else to see about this person, getting his discharged to this location. And I usually ask them that if they could ask guardians if I could get a copy of the state sheet and all the information that we need to get them. And that's one thing, if sometimes they don't come with it, but usually about 95% of the time I do get social worker out of the institution or wherever else to get a copy of that base sheet. Maybe we need to start right there so they can help us out. Because sometimes I started from ground zero, trying to build up something from them to get something. Once they give the facility, sometimes they don't even have Medicaid. Everything has stopped because they were there over 6 months and everything has stopped. So I have to start everything, the whole thing all over. But if maybe in the, getting this packet, maybe it should start where they're getting discharged at, or maybe even guardianship should have something. And I mean, I have something in place that I have them fill out, and this way, but with their information, so we could have some information. It should start from where they're getting discharged from, or the guardian should be in charge of that, bringing in stuff for us to help us out. Because if not, there's a lot of times we working on this stuff, and so every time they go to somebody, I usually have everything in place. I have care coordinators. I have everything, a packet, everything ready for them. So wherever they go, if even they go live on their own, everything has already started. Everything, a care coordinator should be following them. I think every person that has an illness or disability should have a care coordinator following them. And when they get discharged out of the hospital, there is care coordinators that are in-house, that work with them inside. And I mean, sometimes it's hard for them to even get, to follow the clients. But I'm one that I want all that information. I get all the information. So this way, a care coordinator should follow every person that's involved in, going into a renter's or a boarding home or any kind of facility, so they can monitor to see where they're at and make the visits. And, it's not just only just putting everything on a boarding home operator, but I think we're all in this together. I think it needs to start somewhere that everything follows the person, wherever he goes or she goes, they're following. That care coordinator will follow and have all the information that the next person gets, has that information. So we won't lose him, because if not, it's that no child left behind, or no client left behind. I'm a special ed teacher, and so instead of having no client left behind, well, let's not leave him behind. Let's try to get him involved, get everybody involved. And care coordinators should be involved at all times. So that I had one client got discharged, and a care coordinator, he's already been with me almost like 4 months. And I already started the process of a care coordinator, and also I got told he already had one. Well, where was the person involved in all this? So I made some phone calls. They had discharged him the insurance had discharged him from care coordinating, and I got a hold of them, and I even, and so we opened it up again. So I want, wherever my ventures go, I want them to have something based, a foundation, so somebody could follow them, that they are safe, that they are going in and everything, whatever it is, PTO or whatever it is, they are safe, and they go to that home and go check it out. And it's an accountability. So that one, with that discharge packet, I think we just need that packet of, discharging packet or a packet receiving. It should need to start somewhere where that client started at.
And then along with that, I did mention there on section 7.8.4.36. That's it. Some of that is what both Liz and I have been talking about here, is that the care coordinator, for instance, most of the insurances that are paying for a lot of these clients' bills and stuff, and the rental lease agreements and stuff. Again, if an operator has to go ahead and get life insurance, whoever is the state-run insurance company, whoever's going to run this, for instance, if it's Molina, if it's Press, or whoever it is, United, whoever the case may be, what is in place right now, or what may be able to be further added to this, that makes them accountable also, as she had mentioned on here, so that all of a sudden, that safety, that care, that checks and balance, where there should never be where there's only just one person in that client's life. There should always be two or more have checks and balance, and so that no client does get behind. But I was looking at some of these sections in here, of course, because this is written for a boarding home and an assisted living, so it goes into the ambulatories, it goes into all the other. But even like, for instance, this one here, you talked about meals. You talked about meals on here, and it even says right in here, in this section on here, on B5, a boarding home may not accept a resident whose physician has prescribed a therapeutic diet if those dietary requirements cannot be met. So what happens in a situation when we have a current client, all of a sudden he has a stomach ache, he goes to the doctor says, oh, now you need to have a therapeutic diet. Does that mean all of a sudden then that the state hospital is going to be willing to go ahead and take him back in immediately? Because we know that that's not the case, because they really even take him in right now, it's like pulling teeth just to get him in, even when they really need it after, saying they're going to commit suicide. There's a whole procedure and everything, like a 12-hour procedure before they even accept the client in. So I don't know if that's going to be feasible, for instance, on the meals and stuff like that on there. That's why I was saying that there's so much here on this 31 pages here that it's definitely going to have to kind of go in there. And I don't know, as you had mentioned, start blacking out everything that we don't agree with and submit that and saying, this is my opinion. Because I guess that might be a place there too. Because a lot of this here, I'm going to say 85% of this, I don't see it feasible for those $650 and $700 a month. I just don't see it feasible. I see it feasible if the money's behind it. I see all of this feasible. But not at those $650 or $700 a month, I don't see it feasible. So then at that point, I don't see how it can be imposed on anybody. It talks on here when we're saying needs and service plan, as you had talked about earlier and you had mentioned on there, where, again, that relative participating in placement, as I had said, next of kin there again. Some are fortunate to be able to have that. Others have nobody. They only have that operator and whoever else they come into contact inside the home. And that's all they have on here. So sometimes, again, that's where I'm saying that care coordinator, it should be an option that they want to go check on that client. It should also be required to at least go in there if it's once a month or whatever and say, is that client doing okay? How's he looking? Is he getting cared for? It shouldn't have to be all of a sudden that it comes down to the point only when APS had been called and now it's too far gone. If that person is the one that's performing and in charge of their plan as far as for insurance, they should also then be there doing the job, and they should be required also. And maybe there needs to be some type of either certification or / licensure for whoever's picked, and as they do every year, whatever they did on this year, who's going to handle the service plans and stuff. Because that's, again, the payee, the guardianship, and that care coordinator are someone, and the operator. Those are your top 4 major that spend the most time with a client for the most part. The operator is number 1. Yes, you have physicians, you have other people that come and go as they need care, and all of them are different depending on their conditions. But that's where it's discussed in here that the resident's desire and background obtained from the resident's family, his or her authorized representative, if any, licensed professional for appropriate regarding the following: medical conditions, dietary restrictions, prescribed medications, and physical and mental health and social function. The way I understand it now is if an operator was to ask that from DHI, for instance, they'll be told you can't have that information. So that needs to get looked at there also on here. I think it's important. I think on some of this in here, like in my opinion, some of this I do right there, I would say, yeah, these are some of the things I do agree with that can be done that possibly, again, doesn't cost that much money. Exactly. When we discharge the kin, there should be that plan for meeting the objectives and identify what is it that we're hoping to achieve here, or are we just going to stick in there and we're just going to kind of forget about him? Or is there going to be that follow-up? Because, again, we should continue to strive to improve on the condition and the health of these clients. Again, as Liz had mentioned in her past statements, where her goal has always been, I want to make them to the point that they're self-sufficient again if it's possible. And over the years, working and volunteering and stuff and seeing the different clients, there has been able at times where that has been able to happen. But unfortunately, there's been times where actually they've had to go and they've had to be turned into a 24-hour facility because they just didn't have the mental capacity because of the disability that they had, that they could not even be in that setting of a boarding home. So it's, you know, each case is a little bit different on there. But that's why I think it should be an option for that care coordinator to go and see if they want to go ahead and work on it or not. It should be that they also are held accountable along with the operators and everybody else who is licensure. Because then again, at the end of the day, that's what brings safety. That's what brings safety, is that continuous interaction with these clients. And I think that some of this stuff in here, it is pretty good on here. You know, resident records. You know, we look at here, the licensure shall ensure that separate, complete, and current records be maintained at the facility. So does that mean all of a sudden then that along with that, for instance, the operator's going to have to go ahead and have that room that's separated? It's going to have to be under lock and key. There's going to have to be some type of, again, protocol to say, okay, who has access to that room? Does it have to be the CNA, if they have to be CNA, or is it just anybody that they hire on there just on an hourly wage, or only the operator? There has to be some type of identification on some of that stuff out there because, again, a HIPAA and stuff on here. So some of these things in here, I know, again, this was just like a boilerplate that you guys pulled off of the current stuff on there. And again, under home or an assisted living, they got no problem providing all of this because, again, they're getting paid $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month, so they can provide all these services, and that ain't a problem. But for the average boarding home operator / rental home, there's no way. There's no way that they can provide that at $650 a month. Because right now, it's what I've seen, and from what I've looked at over the last probably 3 years of talking with different people in the business around the state, is $650 pretty much covers rent and utilities. Nothing more, not even meals. To be able to actually even say, you'd be lucky if you make a 3% profit. You'd be lucky if you make a 3% profit. As Mr. Crispin had also mentioned, it's only usually the reason why most of these have worked is because they're all family run. There's the family, the kids, everybody else. When they come and they do something, they're not doing it for an hourly wage. They're doing it just to help out. That's the only reason.
Could someone's having a conversation in the background. Could you put yourself on mute, please? All right, sorry, go ahead.
So those are some of the things on there that I think as we look at this document that is proposed here, is again, if it is, we go through it, just again, marking out maybe what each person, as I had mentioned on the last meeting, maybe we need to have some work sessions. I don't know if that's something that also maybe a representative from the Department of Health, as I had mentioned, Department of, let's say, from Code Enforcement, Fire, so we can, for instance, have all these agencies with a representative. You know, I even thought about it, I said, you know, law enforcement should be there. Right now, it's amazing. That's such a gray area for even law enforcement right now on how to handle a mentally disabled client. It still blows my mind that we're way behind on that as far as law enforcement on what they know they can do, what they can't do, and stuff like that out here, what they're afraid to do, or what they just fail to want to do because they don't want to deal with that client. And so some of that in here, again, maybe it's some of these work sessions as we go down here over the next couple of months and stuff like that, so we can sit down and go with this line by line and actually look at it and say, or again, everybody already has turned it in and said, well, everybody says they don't like this one. Everybody says they don't like this one. It already gives you at least then, you know, have to cut down on time because you already know, is it important, is it not? Nobody likes that one for sure. That one's gone. It's just not going to work. Yeah. And then from there, start to nail down.
I think that, you know, kind of the purpose of today is to get comments. You know, it's been open for comments for a couple of months. It would have been nice to get specific written comments, but, you know, we still have time left.
Oh, well, yeah, I think all of us had the intention of trying to work on that, and, you know, just with this current pandemic, I just think that, you know, again, I know for me, and I'll be honest, you know, I had started working on this a while back, and then when this stuff started over here, you know, I had a daughter that was in Amsterdam, and then when this stuff started out of China, always in January, I pretty much had just nothing was more priority than my family. And, at this point, I didn't have an opportunity to really, again, because this is all so fast. Just the way you guys actually had even presented it and said, oh, we need you guys to go and get a letter of intent over this. And then, you know, I'm not saying you guys were malicious about it, but I understand you guys are under the gun also. And I think that it was just a little bit too overwhelming, and it was just too fast. And I know what the idea behind it, but it was just, I think, unrealistic And that's the reason why this is an elephant, and it's going to take a lot of bites and get it done. You know, I go back and I'm looking at this one, like a note I made here, like on nutrition. You know, only because, again, there are some clients that are saying, well, what do you mean you're going to go ahead and feed me that for dinner? No, I want a steak, I want a T-bone, I want a porterhouse. And, you know, all of a sudden they're over here calling APS because then they're saying, oh, well, I just got potted meat today and that was it and I wanted a steak. And it's like all of a sudden, well, who dictates on there? Again, who dictates to what degree? Because they're saying, oh, I never get food over here, I never eat or anything. But then you go back and you say, well, why did that last medical exam that I dropped you off at, why all of a sudden did you gain 5 pounds last month? And the month before that, 3 pounds. Well, if you're not eating, why are you gaining weight? And all of a sudden, you know, they're like, oh, yeah, well, I guess I see that. If I can't be in a tape, I must be eating somewhere or something, huh? And I look at it as, yes, you know, sometimes they just want that attention because they want that porterhouse. And I'm not saying that that's wrong either. But again, that's not going to happen at $6.50 a month. And so food service, you know, that was a big one right there too, where I know talking with the fire department in the past is, you know, and the reason why I got kind of involved in some of this in here was, you know, honestly, I was looking at wanting to open up a type of home for veterans. And at the time, I didn't know if it was going to be best to exactly look at doing it in my home, or was there going to be, I even entertained purchasing a hotel. One of the existing motels that they've done right here, and the reference that I made to some of them just living in motel rooms that were converted to studio apartments per se, or just studio rooms. And there was never really a straight answer, so I couldn't make the investment on that, so I had just kind of left it on hold. And then this all started, and I kind of said, well, this now is going to give me exactly what direction might I need to do if I want to pursue that goal. And for that, because again, federal, you know, they got a whole other gamut of regulations and stuff that they do have in place that you must meet to house a veteran. So, on the food service, when I talked to the fire department, you know, in some instances they were saying, well, that's a real tricky one there, because this might just determine on what guy or what employee comes in to inspect you that year. You may say that you need to go ahead and put a whole ANSO system in here. The other guy might say, well, no, you're okay just with that hood right there. But the difference is at the first moment that you license, and like you go with what you guys have written down today, there's going to be no question it's going to have to be a commercial kitchen with ANSO. You know, and that's not cheap. That's $60,000 or better right there for the average kitchen. And that's the reason on why that makes that a little bit where, I don't know if it's feasible. I'm not saying it's wrong. Again, it's just not feasible at $6.50 a month. So I think at that point, that's going to have to get looked at here, that whole section, as far as food prep, food service. Again, we touched a little bit already on pharmaceutical services, but right there alone, there's no way that a boarding home / rental operator is going to be able to provide any pharmaceutical services, period, without bringing liability to themselves. That's all that needs to be done by a nurse, doctor, game. Because if not, I know every attorney that I've talked to says, you start handing out medications to somebody else other than yourself or your children, you're looking for trouble. And infection control. We look at that on here too, where I don't think that's a big deal on that one when I look at it as far as infection, or let's say even to the point of, like we were saying, let's say spraying for bugs, for instance, and stuff like that, pesticides to that. But the infection one here, you know, this is a big one right in here because this is exactly what has gotten a lot of what brought us here today with some of the clients. We started getting involved with drugs. So all of a sudden, here we are looking at this on here. And we're finding out needles, different things that they're leaving in their pants, things they're leaving there, and all of a sudden you go do laundry, and wow, you just got poked by a needle, and you don't even know what's on that client, because again, we don't even know what this client's all about, because we were never given that information. So we didn't know what type of disease or HIV or whatever else they may have, Hep C, whatever the case. We don't know that, because none of that was never disclosed. But this has happened. And I know that, like I said, that there's different things on there as far as all these needles where it's in the state of New Mexico and the client is drug and alcohol use. There again, what can you do other than post it in your agreement that alcohol and drugs will not be consumed on the property? And then if they don't abide by it, then they're not housed there. And then again, we have the issue that's coming up here now, medical marijuana, for instance. Well, hey, if he gets a medical card there, are you required to actually have him there using that medication along with everybody else who's around the property who doesn't have a card, but all of a sudden they're all, sharing the same cigarette? I don't know. That's a lot of gray areas there as far as the licensure. Again, is that going to revoke a license, for instance, for an operator if something like that does happen? Not for the one who has the legal medical card now, but how about the rest? When somebody calls in on that person, or all of a sudden that person is popping positive on a test. So these are things in there that we got to look at there on here where, I don't know if there was, like I said in here, I didn't get to the point of looking at, was there like an appeal process in here? Things on here where you can continue to be able to, situations come up, you can mitigate, and you can go in there, you can present your case and say, well, I know I look guilty today, but really it's not my fault. Let me tell you the whole story. I don't think I should have my license revoked. I don't know, again, I can see a section in there that I recall on the first review that talks on there where we can go ahead and operator has other than complaints. Is that under complaints there? Because that was just a real small section. And then target point 8.4.46. That says about the boarding home facility must investigate complaints made under a resident, caregiver, or guardian regarding treatment or care, or regarding the lack of respect for the resident's property, and must document both the existence of the complaint and the resolution of the complaint. The facility's investigation of a complaint must be initiated within 3 working days of receipt of the complaint. So I take it at that point that's the state that's going to come and do that?
And actually,
it says the municipal facility must investigate that.
Yeah.
So are you putting that burden on the operator?
Yeah, so I don't want to go too in depth with that, Phil, but I do owe you an explanation of what that would be. So that's similar to any kind of facility. So if there's an incident in your facility, so you gave a perfect example of a sharp stick. So you're doing laundry and you have somebody that one of you gets poked with a needle. So you report that incident to the Department of Health, you send up a thing, and you would investigate what happened. So you would find out what happened with this person bringing in drugs and needles. You didn't get the history. They didn't discharge them appropriately with the history. And as a result, you're going to screen residents before they come into your home surrounding needle use. That would be kind of a very simple example. So instead of the Department of Health coming out and investigating this, you would do your own internal investigation and determination of what happened in your facility or your home.
Okay, and that's kind of what that's what I kind of come in. So again, as you had mentioned there, I can see it again after the fact. We can go ahead and do all of this in here. As I had mentioned also, where again the facility, they shouldn't be an option. It should be required that all of this stuff is disclosed up front before, because again, that's what the intake process is to ensure, is to say, well, no. I feel like a lot of times where the social workers should, at that point, DHI, for instance, should be able to have a lot of this worked out before they're actually ready to release the client. And I think that right there is where safety starts. Because I understand that this whole legislation that's proposed here is only for people that are coming out of a state facility, correct?
A healthcare facility, yeah. And I have very detailed notes of what you're talking about what would be required upon discharge if they're making a referral. So what it sounded like you telling me, and you said this on a couple different occasions, is so if a referral were to come to you, what would you want in that referral packet before you would accept that resident or consider that resident in your home? And one of them would be the ID, a current ID, medical history, and I have all those notes very specifically.
So you're saying you have some notes already written down?
Yeah, well, I'm listening to you speak, so I'm taking notes while you talk.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you already had some previously. But exactly, that's why I've kind of been touching up on this, because that's why I said I do agree with that intake. And I think that exactly on here, I mean, you do have a lot of them covered in here. They might just have to be a little bit of rewording here, a little bit and stuff on here to fit, again, the boarding home / rental, because this, again, is more catered towards commercial facility. So that's where I look at that on here and stuff on here. But I think that, yes, I do think that that's somewhere to start right there where, again, that's bringing safety. That's bringing safety again. I think that would be something that in my opinion, I don't think is a big deal. And I think that that's something that any operator should be able to say, that it gives them also that opportunity to say, yeah, maybe I don't want that client here, or maybe I do. Now I know the full picture, and maybe save themselves a lot of heartache, or no, you know what, I think I can go ahead and do it. I got a full scope of the picture of this client, and I'm going to go ahead and take him on. That would help. So it kind of does give that. Versus right now, a lot of operators are just kind of taking him on a word and a prayer and saying, you know what, let's find out. And sometimes it works, and sometimes, let me tell you, it ain't so pretty. And so I think that that's good, and it does give that clarity on here. On here, where it was saying on here, as far as we were going into like the building codes, and we talked about that building code, and that's what's next on your document and stuff on here, the environment and general building plan and requirements and stuff. Where again, you know, these guys are going in here, and yeah, this is based off of a commercial, so a lot of this doesn't even really apply to a residential setting. But I think that's going to have to get kind of looked at on there and stuff and see, because again, just like your plumbing fixtures, electrical fixtures, mechanical, a lot of this stuff in here is not going to be the same for a residential home or a commercial. So that's going to have to be determined, or what's going to be able to be acceptable. Because for instance, I'll give you an idea. A commercial facility is going to take a different type of fire extinguisher than what a residential is allowed. So in other words, everybody thinks that, oh, it's a red can and it says fire extinguisher on there, that's good enough. Get that one off the shelf and I'll buy that one. But that's not entirely true, because in a commercial setting, your fire extinguisher has to be manufactured out of a certain product, be a certain size, and be actually mounted and stuff different than for one that's going to be in a residential setting. So that's going to have to get somewhat looked at, this whole area here, for instance, just for reasons like that on there. And again, as we mentioned, the detectors and everything else. For this, as it's written here today, there's no way that this is even going to be close to being able to ever be able to get squeezed into a residential, not all of it anyhow, without actually going in there and fine-tuning this a little bit, again, with the smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, fire extinguishers, and then again, back to that training. Is it required for the operator? Is it required for the social worker, the care coordinator, the guardian? Who's going to train that client also to be able to say, hey, they may have to be able to use that to save their own life if nobody else is around. Or, again, they don't know how to use it and it's not addressed, and something does happen and then somebody gets injured from a fire. Does that automatically mean that goes on the operator? That's false? I don't know. You know, that's the reason too why right now, once that license is issued, a lot of this stuff does immediately fall on that operator if it's not spoken up today. So I kind of look at it as that definitely is a big one there. As Mr. Crispin said too on his, you know, they're going to make me put in a fire sprinkler system. And then all of a sudden then everybody knows, well, okay, yeah, this is the rule, so if I know if I want to expand or if I want to go ahead and put a few more people at this same square footage, that means I got to put a fire sprinkler system in. That means I'm going to have to go and get an amended license, as they talked about an amended license and a procedure for that and stuff on there. And that may be an issue. So we got to look at that also on there so we know exactly what is the base before we even start moving forward. Is what's that going to be? Because that's a big one. Fire's a big one. On their building code. You know, I know, like, for instance, the gentleman that went in and did the inspection like that at Ms. Montoya's house there was talking about, well, you need to go ahead and change your windows out. You need to go and have a ladder off of this one and stuff like that on there. Well, again, is that going to be a residential ladder that's going to be acceptable? Or is it going to have to be a commercial structure that's OSHA certified structure as examples? So that's another thing that has to be defined. And again, if anybody wants to go ahead, I just figured we had the time. If anybody has anything to say, please just go ahead and speak, and I'll be quiet. But if we have the time, I just want to say what's on my mind. But if anybody else wants to speak, just start speaking up and I'll let you go.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, Montoya, I do have a question. With boarding homes, I was looking at on page, I think it's page 27. How the mandating about bedrooms, the dormitory rooms, and all that. I mean, in my place, how I have the homes, and I don't. One time I guess there's no bunk beds and nothing that's going to be allowed, and so many individuals and apart and stuff like that, especially with this virus going around. How are you guys going to put that in place? The people that do not want to get licensed and they have a place or home that has 10 people in a bedroom, and and the windows seems that the windows are not to be covered. There has to be an access for in case of a fire. That window has to have an air, so they can jump out for in case or whatever to get out or whatever it is. And how are you guys going to put that in place for people that have people from New Mexico Behavioral Health or wherever, but have that much clients? I mean, I have my best friend that has told me that that her brother is in a place that has a bedroom with 8 people all lined up. I'm not sure about the dormitory. I mean, how are you guys going to put that in place? I mean, are you guys going to just the ones that want to get licensed, you're going to come in and you're going to facilitate all that, or those ones that do not want to get licensed but want to continue to have bunk beds to have that many clients? Are you guys going to do something about that, or is that just going to be, as long as you don't get licensed? As long as you can get licensed, it's okay. I mean, you guys can have as many you want and keep getting discharged as many as you can. I mean, that's one question. And with the dormitory also, I mean, the restrooms, I only have 2, I have a 2-bedroom mobile home, and there's only 2 people in there. They have their own bath. I make sure that, it's always clean. I especially if my OCD kicks in and everything's thrown off, cleaned all the time. In the other facilities, how are we going to do that? How are you guys going to get 8 people to a bedroom and they only have one bath, one restroom dormitory for them? I mean, is that going to be mandatory that they be licensed or not be licensed? I don't know. I don't want to open a can of worms. I'm just curious because I am just curious of a lot of facilities from here to Albuquerque to Las Cruces. They have places that have quite a bit of people, and sometimes only one bathroom that's going to be used. That's being used with that many people housing it. I mean, I could put as much bunk beds in everybody's house and take the living room out and make another bedroom. I choose not to. I want them to live and have their privacy. It's their own house, their own apartment. They're in there. They do whatever. They have TVs. They watch TV. They have their own kitchen. They have their own refrigerator, their own freezer, and I provide them the food. Sometimes I just buy food and I just put it in there so they can snack on and have some. Because I know that a lot of them are smokers and they like to eat a lot. And so I just do that just to help them out. If it was my kids or or them, whoever, that's in my home and in my place. So I'm just curious about that one. And there was another question, but I lost my train of thought about the other question about facilitating. But more my thing was about the bedroom issue, the dormitories, and I mean, if I want to be licensed and I'm mandatory to do this, so that is it going to be mandatory? Would it be mandatory for somebody else that even though they get discharged and if people from any New Mexico Behavioral Health or any Presbyterian or whatever hospital they come from? So I'm just curious about that one.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else, or can I continue on a few other things?
I'd like to ask that. Anyone else want to speak up? Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Rivas.
All right, we'll continue down on here as we were continuing down on here in the legislation. For instance, when it's on your plumbing, as we were talking about. I'm here as it states in here, all your plumbing systems, including water, sewer, etc., accordance with the latest adopted edition of New Mexico Commercial Building, New Mexico Plumbing Code. So then you go down on here then to your electrical, you go down over here to your heating and your ventilation, your electrical and your heating, it makes it doesn't decipher if it's the commercial code or the residential code. And in this case, again, that's what's going to have to be established. What code is going to be what's going to supersede on this licensure? Is it going to be the and then price is going to have to be dictated also because there's some big differences on there as far as residential and commercial. So that needs to get kind of looked at in there without going into too much detail on all of those. That's going to have to get looked at because right now the way it's written today, there's no way that we even have uniformity really there because we have contradiction right there between the different codes on what's going to be used. This was another big one in here right above that, and I forgot on there's the laundry services. Again, there's I know the sky's the limit, and that's again in this application you ask people what services do they want to provide. I mean, I think every operator wants to provide as many services as they can, but it's just going to be right there that again, if the money's not there, it's just going to be unrealistic. Where I know that I have come up with my own formula of saying anymore in today's world, you almost can't do a load of laundry for less than $10. You go even to a local laundromat anymore, and I was surprised what the prices are over there by the time you actually put into the washer, buy your detergent, buy your softener, your dryer, you got about $10 a load. And again, clients are getting like $40 a month allowance, and they're supposed to get everything with that. And so that's something that I don't think that can be pushed without increase in price or wherever that may come from on the case. And then again, does it have to be a commercial laundry facility as far as equipment in there? Can it be residential? That's going to, I guess, have to be identified on what the minimums are. Again, if you meet above that, well, then that's great. But there has to be dictated on there, I think, at a minimum. And then again, only if that's going to be additional money. If not, then I don't even think that can even be in there. I don't even think that you can actually mandate that an operator is responsible for laundry on there. I mean, I will just again, I'll give you an example. I mean, I remember one day I went to go ahead and volunteer for the day at Elizabeth boarding home, and that day was on a Friday, and that day I did 26 loads of laundry. There for like 12 hours almost. A little longer by the time I got the last one dried. And I'll tell you, like I was telling her, do you provide this currently? And she says, well, yeah, I've been providing this for them. And I'm like, wow. You know what? They are getting a pretty good deal then so far. I said on here because I just thought of what that would cost if they had to go to the local laundry and do 26 loads at $10 a piece. There would have been no way that those clients would have been able to even afford it for the first week, much less for the remainder of the other 3. So that's something that's going to have to get looked at. Is it going to be mandatory that they have to do it or not? So we're going to have to go ahead and sit down and say, okay, what do people look at that? And this is even going into the detail of saying that linen must be. So right now, that's a big one right there too, where I know that sometimes you could buy a mattress on a Monday and that thing is ruined by a Friday. That's $150 gone. I know in the past I've asked Elizabeth that too. Well, who covers that? She's like, I just been doing it. I've been buying them on my own. And I'm like, really? My goodness. No wonder you're not making anything here. And I said, again, I'm not going to be mean like I told her, but I was just like blown away that all of these things that she was just doing just for doing them. And then now I'm saying, well, now you might not be able to because if it's a licensure, there's going to be certain things you can do and can't do, or you're just not going to be able to because you're not going to be able to stay in business. So here, because this is a commercial template here that you guys are using, this is saying that all linens and bedding shall be changed as needed and stuff. I mean, right now, like I was telling her, washing machine, dryer, ironing board. I mean, a lot of this stuff in here, average client can't even use none of that on there without probably seriously injuring themselves. So that's going to have to get looked at along with all of those different sections in there. What's that?
Is someone trying to speak up?
I have some concerns. I'm a new newcomer, and I almost forgot about the meeting, and I'm calling in now. My name is Jamie Fox, and I have a resident my brother, he's a resident in one of the homes. His name is Jeff Bass. And I have some concerns and some questions.
Please go ahead.
Okay. This has been, I have had my brother in a home. It's already been 25 years. And I'm really concerned because this issue has been going on since 2010 when you guys came out and you guys deregulated this facility and you told them that they were all rentals. And the thing is, my concern is, where can my brother go for $750 a month? And what you guys are telling us now is that where is he going to have this kind of care that he is getting in a home? These rental facilities provide so much. And yes, you have had issues with some homes of these people that do not have experience that have opened these homes. But these people that have these homes, most of the majority of the people in Las Vegas are very experienced. I could not do for my brother what they have done for him in the home now. My brother was very uncooperative with me and everything. And now I'm really concerned because I cannot afford to pay. Right now, I am going to be on a fixed income because I am looking to be retired. I am not in very good health anymore. And my concern is that right? And can you guys really tell me where to put my brother to rent? Do you go to a rental facility and tell them you can't rent to somebody because they have a mental issue? And these people are people that are okay to be out there in society. They've been cleared by a doctor and say that they can be out there in society, and they're out there in this rental facility that we call now, and they are safe, they are getting supervised, they are meeting their needs, everything. Their behavior is totally different when they live in an environment with the same group of people like them. And my concern is can you guys really tell me or tell my brother where to go rent and not to rent from them?
Thank you.
Hello?
Yes, no, thank you. I appreciate your comments.
Okay. So that's my concern. Can you really tell me where to take my brother? Do you go to the rental facilities or the motels or all these places that are renting to all these people, and you tell them, you know, just because he's got schizophrenia that he can't live there?
So, Ms. Fox, and that's why we're having this hearing today, is we're trying to differentiate the difference between a residential lease kind of agreement and an actual facility that would take residents and be in charge of taking care. That's part of the reasons of why these rules have been exact and why we're working.
But excuse me, the income level has not changed. So what is changing on your part? How much do you want to hold these people liable for $750 a month?
Right.
Don't you think that they are really doing the state of New Mexico a big service? You know, you guys are just bad-mouthing and scandalizing Las Vegas and these old homes for other people that did wrong. But you were the guys, you were the ones, Department of Health, that pulled their license. So why did you do that? When they went, because I was part of that group that went to go ask them to not pull their license. Because you're going to open up a big can of worms and everybody's going to thinking that they can take care of people and they don't even know what to do with them. And they think that they can be unsupervised all the time. Oh, no, they can't. And you tell me, what business can be unsupervised? Are you guys unsupervised, or do you guys have a supervisor that looks over you? So, see, every business runs the same. So why are they better on the street than in these homes?
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate the perspective. All right.
I was going to ask, I guess, if there wasn't anyone else on there, I was going to ask, like, as today's hearing winds down, what is more or less the proposed action or the procedure that you plan on taking from this point forward?
So the process is that I, as the hearing officer, review the rule, review the testimony. I make a recommendation to the cabinet secretary as to whether the rule should be passed or not, and if passed, whether I see any changes should be made to the draft.
Okay, and what's usually the time frame in which this all has to occur before possibly that we get kind of an answer?
Right. Well, so, I think we're a little bit tight if we're looking at a June 2nd target date for adoption of that rule. So my intention is to put a fair amount of work into this the remainder of this meeting. I think Ms. Washburn could probably answer as to what the process is after my recommendation is made.
And so with this, as you had mentioned early on when the meeting started, is it going to be possible to continue to submit recommendations, ideas, etc., to there before you get down to making this decision close to the end of May?
So the record's open until 5 o'clock today.
Okay, so it's only till 5 o'clock today then?
Correct.
And so from today to right around June 2nd or a little prior to that, you're going to go ahead and you're going to give your recommendation, either yay or nay, on trying to adopt this, or saying you're going to adopt this and try to go ahead at that time and just say, I'm just going to force it down their throat.
Well, like I said, I can't speak to what the process is at Department of Health once I forward the recommendation, but perhaps Ms. Washburn or Mr. Burmeister may want to or may not. I don't know.
I have another question. What exactly are you guys calling a boarding home? What exactly are you guys putting under that umbrella that is to be done and expected of a boarding home?
That's a good question. That's the rules that we have that we're talking about today in the hearing. Did you get a copy of that?
No, because I am just a concerned resident calling on behalf of my brother.
Okay. Well, we can send you the rules because this is a public hearing, so you can be provided with the rules. If you're able to put in there a contact address or phone number, and don't do it because this is a public thing. I think you can email it to us so we can get you the.
Okay. Okay. And my other question is do I have to remove my brother from the home that he's currently in, even if people do not get licensed?
That's not the purpose of the hearing. The hearing is to allow the public to weigh in on the proposed rules to license boarding homes in New Mexico. And this is the preliminary first hearing with our hearing officer, who will be compiling all the information, making recommendations, and then we're going to have to answer a bunch of stuff to him, and then you'll be notified of the next steps.
Another question I have is why haven't any of these homes been involved in trying to set up rules and regulations, and why haven't you the committee asked any of these to be part of that committee to see what works and doesn't work?
Right.
Because the thing is, how much do you want to hold them liable for $750?
Right. That's why we're having the public hearing, is exactly that, so that we can get comments from current operators that are providing the services to see if these rules actually do fit with the model that they're currently providing now.
Well, they didn't fit before, and you submitted the same requirement. So they didn't fit before. So what's the difference now? Are you going to give them more money, or what is going to occur here?
Yeah, and
because I can't afford to pay more money.
Right. So that's two different questions. So the first question was the rules are actually ones that we've developed in conjunction with multiple sources in the community. So, and these aren't law. That's why we're having the hearing with the administrative law judge present, is so that we can hear public comments from both people that are getting services in these homes and also the providers. So that's what this 36-page document is proposing. The second part, when you're talking about reimbursement, this hearing is not about reimbursement, it's about rules. That would be a separate inquiry, and that is something that multiple people on the phone call today have spoken about reimbursement rates and things like that. But right now, this focus for this hearing today is the scope of service of what they provide and some basic rules and guidance around what it would be for New Mexico to license a boarding home. And so that's where you as a consumer and as the participants on the phone that are providing it are giving us their feedback so that we can build a rule that helps us serve New Mexicans in the best possible way.
Well, another thing I feel is you seem to think that these people do not have experience and do not know what they're doing. These people have a lot of experience and they can do better than the majority of anybody around here. I would say that they could even probably teach you guys, the committee, a thing or two on how to handle these people.
Well, please make no mistake. I personally have been in many of these boarding homes. I've been working a long time with the boarding home operators, many of them on the phone, and I think they can attest that judgment is absolutely not being made towards any of the operators. We're not questioning their competency or what they're doing. I think they're articulated better than I can. They're creating safe environments to take care of New Mexicans. This is a unlicensed facility type, and this is what we're trying to do. This process is us supporting these important, valued members of our community. They are serving individuals, and we want to build rules that fit to protect them and to protect the people under their roof.
Well, the thing is, if you impose this rule, there is no way that these boarding homes are going to be able to survive under that. And if they apply for a license, they're only hanging themselves because the income's the same, everything else is the same as in 2010. So there is no difference.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you impose this rule, you are doing a big disservice to New Mexico, to these residents, to the family.
And like I said, the intent is not to close boarding homes. It's not to hurt New Mexico families or the people they serve or these boarding homes. It's to build rules that can fit to meet the needs of these people living in these homes. So I hope.
Okay, well, how many people have you applied? How many homes have applied for a license?
We've had 16, I believe, so far, but it might have been more at this point.
And even with the rules and regulations that they have, that you're imposing now,
There are rules and regulations imposed.
I'm
sorry, and I spoke incorrectly. Please correct that. You're talking about the temporary emergency rules that expire on June 2nd?
Yes.
Yeah, we had multiple people apply for temporary licensure. Yes.
Okay, and that's just a letter of an intent. That's not a license, right?
Correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Which is good. I mean, that's...
Well, then again, I'm going to have to add to that on here is that's good, but then maybe again, is it so good that only do we have a few new Las Vegas operators actually here at the hearing today? I don't know. Do they really even know what they're actually agreeing, or they're just putting a letter of intent and hoping for the best for a Hail Mary there?
Yeah.
I don't know. But right now, I mean, if lady is done, I have a few more things, but if she's not, she can continue.
Go on, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. The other thing that I was going to get back to here real quick was the resident rooms.
Hey, Susan?
What's that?
I have somebody that wants to say something. She just walked in and she just wanted to say something. So I'm going to excuse myself right now and just...
Okay.
Hi, my name is Adelina.
What is your full name?
Adelina Pais Vaughn.
Yes, please go ahead.
I have a brother who lives in a boarding home. He's been in a boarding home for about 30 years right now. So if the place doesn't become licensed, will the boarding home be shut down? That's my question.
Shut down. The intent, like I said, from the hearing is not to shut anything down. It's to create rules so that we have licensed facilities where your brother could live. So I don't quite understand the question. The goal has never been to shut anything down. It's to build rules that be able to meet the needs of the people that are being served in existing boarding homes. Or if a new operator wants to open a boarding home, give them guidance of how to become licensed.
So if the rules are not followed, would the place be shut down then? If they don't follow the rules and the guidelines, or is there penalties, or?
Sure, and there's a whole section in there for non-compliance. And I'd have to look at specifically what page it is for non-compliance. So there's lots of, depending upon how the rules kind of work out, depending on what's in the rules, of course, if you're not following the rules, that's the same thing as any licensed agency, a store or anything like that, a healthcare facility. If you don't follow the rules, there are consequences, there can be penalties. And those are built into this too. Because, of course, anytime rules are imposed, the whole goal is to create a safe environment of care.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Excuse me. So what you're saying, if they remain as rental facilities, you can still go in and close them?
Well,
because that's what they're considered now.
We're not talking about rental facilities today, or rental agreements between a tenant and landlords. We are talking only specifically about New Mexico boarding homes. So,
okay. So then if they're not a boarding home, you can't really do anything to them.
Right. Landlord-tenant relationships are a completely separate area.
Okay, then can I ask why you sent the letter to the boarding homes, ex-boarding homes, rental facilities, if this doesn't apply to them?
Sure. We had a list, and we had to start somewhere, so we sent it out to everybody on that list that were either a licensed boarding home before or a potential operator, and then they chose whether they wanted to submit a letter of intent and pursue the licensing process and also participate in the hearing and the subsequent previous community hearings that we had, or not hearings, meetings that we had in Las Vegas and Elbert.
So in other words, you're hoping that they'll apply for a license?
Well, we're not only just hoping that they'll apply for a license, we're hoping that they'll be part of the process like the people on this phone call and help us build good rules that fit the needs of operators and the people they serve.
See, because the reason I'm calling is because I'm really concerned about my brother and what would I have to do with him, and that's why I would have to have a plan. Right.
And I definitely hear your concern, and I will tell you, the Secretary's concern is the same. We don't want people on the streets. We don't want the intent is not to have people not licensed. It's the goal of getting the facility licensed. So that's why we're having a hearing. It would be very remiss and inappropriate for us to just develop rules and just put them out there and impose them without having feedback from the community. This is also why we have an administrative law judge in here that is going to be taking your testimony today, the rules, and making recommendations, and we're going to have to answer to the administrative law judge on his recommendations on what can happen before anything goes to any kind of formal process or implementation where the Secretary can sign off on it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I was going to go back and continue on here as we were going down on here. The next area kind of where I had some concern a little bit was outdoor activity space. That starts there in section 7.8.4.57 is on that here. That's going to have to kind of get probably reviewed because every yard on the existing homes right now, again, some of them even being in historical districts and stuff like that, are going to find almost it's going to be impossible to meet a commercial template that's outlined here today. So I think there's going to have to be, that's going to have to be looked at. And then also as we move down there, a little bit where it comes into the kitchen and the dining room in here, we go down to section 7.8.4.59, where we have dining, recreation, indoor activity, and multi-purpose rooms. it's saying here that you guys are wanting to require that they have both a dining room and an activity room and a living room, where we all know in a home, just like in an average home, it's either the dining room table or the living room, and that kind of, handles all of those things in there as far as eating, activities, arts and crafts, again, puzzles, etc., whatever you want to do. So some of that's going to have to kind of get looked at also and probably be rewritten also where, as it's written here today, again, in this commercial template, that's not going to be able to work out also and stuff on there, in my opinion. And then as I move down on here, and we start looking down at section 7.8.4, NMHC on the bottom, and I think Elizabeth was going to touch on this, and she did a little bit on the resident rooms. This whole section right in here, the way it is written, is catered, again, 100% commercial facility, where, it starts to break down. I mean, I can't say that I'm going to disagree with the square footage, or maybe it needs to be just a tad less or more. I kind of think, again, right now, this is, again, your average hospital room. This is what this is based on here, which is a lot larger than any average residential bedrooms, for instance. And even a private home, for instance, not only in a boarding home or, this here, again, because it's a commercial. So if you look in here, again, you break it down in here to a private room, a semi-private, a dormitory room. Again, each one of those is, again, dictating cost. So if you're going to put it in there that it has to be in writing, I think it's going to get pulled out. Because there's no way that the average boarding home is going to be able to say, well, I'm going to go ahead and give you a private room for the same price as these guys who are sharing two rooms, because then the first moment, too, that you do that, you don't have equity, equality, should I say there. And then it kind of goes down and you kind of look back and you continue to go down on there a little bit. It even makes reference in there to all of a sudden, well, hey, if you want to have a couple, a male and a female, and they're a couple, you can even go and put them in a room in a bigger bed. And stuff on there, and it's like, then, well, do you still then just charge the $650 a month, or now do you charge the, double that? So is it $1,400, $1,320, or is it all of a sudden, well, we're going to do price to $8,000? So, you got to kind of look at that also and stuff on there, because as written, I don't think that's fair right there on there. That's not going to work in that type of setting, again, of a residential type boarding rental facility.
Mr. Rubin, can I make a real quick comment right here, now that you're going over? Okay, people started, what I liked about putting my brother here, it was about a home type of an environment. And back in the day, boarding homes were as a home type of an environment. Why are we taking all that away from these people?
So I can feel that when we're not taking away the home environment, that's not the intent. That's the whole purpose behind a boarding home, is to have that home kind of environment. And some of these rules are meant for new providers also. When you do ground up construction or you buy an existing home and you want to do boarding home. So I think that when you're looking at some of the language in here would not be applicable. And it sounds like we have to do some retooling of some of the language in here, because what I'm getting the gist of the last couple of hours is people are feeling like all these rules have to be implemented, and that was never the intent of it. And so there might need to be some clarification. So in this process, and in my documentation and notes of what we're doing, and I'm sure the hearing officer is going to have lots of questions for us to be able to answer. It sounds like we need some more description in some of these things that you guys are reading in here, and we really appreciate that feedback. That's been very helpful, and I get that very clearly.
All right, well, that's exactly what my goal was today, was just to make it known that as written, there's going to be no way that that's going to be able to comply. And in a lot of instances, this is going to have to get really scaled back from 31 pages to be able to meet, again, that environment of a home environment. That is the money that's available for the clients to pay that they have in their home. These are going to have to get looked at because, again, as we talked a little bit earlier about the linens, that same section that we were just going over and stuff like that on here, we go to section H, number 1, says clean linen in good repair, including lightweight warm blankets, bedspread, top and bottom sheets, pillowcase, mattress, rubber and plastic sheeting, when necessary, and all bath towels and towels and washcloths. Well, that one sentence alone right there just put $1,000 bill on the table. that one sentence alone to provide that to the client, and as stated in there says that that's the operator's responsibility. How can an operator afford $1,000 on a client who's coming in and only paying $650? Again, language. Maybe it's even
You know, Mr. Rubin, I don't know you personally, but I thank you very much for being an advocate for these people, because I think this committee, you really don't know what all is involved with this people and how much is involved. And
you're saying that I don't know?
You wonders. No, I'm saying you do. I'm saying the committee does not know. And I'm thanking you for advocating them and for advocating for our people, which is my goal.
I appreciate that, and I thank you for that. And I just try to do my best on here because, again, we're only as strong as our weakest link. And I look at it is at this point here, and I'm sure that the panel up there doesn't take this as an attack on them or anything. That's not my intention. I just want to go ahead and bring all this stuff out because I know he has to go back. They got to go ahead and they got to look at this, and they got to come up with something that's going to possibly be able to pass, and not have to come back and rehash this 10 times. But as I was going on, like for instance, here we go on into the next section, which is 7.8.461. Toilets, lavatories, and bathing facilities. You know, the one thing right in here, as maybe as silly as it seems, you go to section 8-2. All toilets must be kept and supplied with toilet paper. Let me tell you, that's a big one, especially as we sit right here today. Where again, we had talked about how we didn't even have no type of emergency provisions in this legislation that has been there. There's no provisions in there on what to do in a situation like this, because even if an operator wanted to maybe go and find toilet paper, they wouldn't be able to. So are they going to get APS called on them, for instance? But right now, I know that that's a big thing on clients, because again, that's another thing that I try to do with clients. Every time I go to hotels, I stock up on soaps and shampoos and everything so I can distribute them out to different clients and stuff like that to help them out, because I know they don't have the money for stuff like that. Toilet paper, different things like that on there that I'm able to go ahead and take, and it's not considered stealing, and I'm able to pass it along to help people out with that. But like I know that that's a big one there, because again, most clients, if that's your allowance, you should be able to go ahead and say, for instance, you got to get your basic necessities and your hygiene and that here that you need per month, instead of that client that says, you know what, he has no concept of that. He knows that he's just getting money and he wants to buy Dr. Pepper all month, for instance. And that's all he cares about. But you can't just let that go and say, well, that was his choice, and all of a sudden, you know, we have an inspection coming up. And there's a guy there that hasn't bathed in 2-3 days because he spent everything on Dr. Pepper, for instance. That's just an example. And that's why as I look at that one, that's a big one on there as far as when we continue to go down there, because then it starts going to bend back into the laundry facilities. It starts going back into the hygiene gear and stuff. That these are responsibilities of the operator. And I think all of that kind of stuff, that's going to have to either get removed out of there and either put in, again, as that intake package. This is the same as it is at that assisted living and that nursing home. I mean, this could realistically pass as is if it was a kind of a menu and an a la carte, and every time you took a client in, depending on how much money they had and who was funding it, you could probably fund them with everything if they had the money. But if they didn't, it shouldn't be that it's mandated to the operator. It should always be that it's optional on any of these services that we have discussed here today and stuff on there beyond utilities and rent. Anything beyond that, in my opinion, needs to be negotiated as far as the same way as it is with an assisted living or a nursing home. Because at $650, let's face it, where in America are you going to be able to go ahead and get all of that stuff provided, a room, 1 meal even, 2 meals, and be able to have utilities, shower, everything for $650 a month? You can't even get that. You can't even check into a hotel, even at the lowest quality, for $650 a month right now today in America. And that's kind of the reason on why, as we look at this here, these are things I think if you go back, a lot of this is just because, again, it's catered towards a commercial facility, and I realize why you had to do what you had to do. But I think we're almost going to see that a lot of this has got to come out, because it's just no way that it's going to be able to say it's mandated, it's going to be part of the licensure. I don't see how this can be It won't be feasible. It won't. And we know, as most of the other people have talked about here today, what's going to happen to their brothers? What are they going to be forced with to do? Is the state going to be able to do this later on if they do impose this? If they don't? I mean, I know here today that's not the goal, but come June 2nd, it's either going to be a yay or a nay. And at that point, then there could be some action at that point, depending on what your outcome and your recommendation is from all of our comments here today. So, as I continue to look on here, we were then going back to the fire safety on 7.8.4.66. And on there, that's what I was touching base on earlier, where it outlines the difference between the fire extinguishers, for instance, where they should be placed, what they need to be manufactured of, are they rechargeable ones, are they disposable ones, what is going to be acceptable, smoke alarms, fire alarms, automatic detection equipment, sprinkler systems. I mean, I don't even know, like, for instance, I know that that's something that Mr. Crispin has made reference to, that they told him, you're going to have to put a fire system in. And I look at it as, well, I don't know. I myself have not been to his home, so I don't know if it's 10 people, 20 people. Again, this is a commercial template. So if that's something, again, that's even going to be feasible to put in a fire system and be able to say, yes, it's going to be law. They will have to after so many people. Or is it square footage? Because, again, we got to go back to those rooms. What's going to be the square footage in the rooms? How many people can you put in that square footage? So all that's going to have to kind of be dictated and coordinate together and have that continuity to be able to say, yes, it's mandatory. We think we actually need fire protection. And at this point, that's a big expense. It doesn't mean even if it's an existing home or from the ground up. And as you had mentioned, I believe it was you said Chris, right? That's your name, Chris?
Yes, sir.
So exactly. So as you had mentioned, that even when you looked at this here initially, as you had stated, even if it was for somebody that was just coming into the business, the ground up, as I had mentioned that I had considered, and so for veterans, I mean, in 31 pages that we have outlined here, I could almost tell you here today, there would be almost, I'm 99% sure I would not even be able to venture into a business like this in today's market and be able to do and meet every guideline that's here. That's usually the reason on why we have, more people retrofitting existing assisted living and nursing homes than building from the ground up. And then again, as we know, if you do go into one of the newer facilities, you're not paying those $650 a month. That's definitely not occurring. I was just going to wait for the one here, for instance, right in Santa Fe here, right behind the new Presbyterian to open up. And I was going to go and look at that here possibly and say, just again, entertaining it possibly for my mother or something like that down the road and see exactly what that costs today to follow all these guidelines and provide everything and stuff like that. But what I've been told, it's in the neighborhood of between $3,000 and $6,000 a month, depending on what package you pick. For bedroom,
I looked into a facility for my brother like that, and it is $6,000. There's no way I can afford it. And the thing is, I mean, what are you? If you're the Department of Health, I mean, you should be more concerned about our fellow people. And the thing is, another question I have is, how many new homes, new applicants have you had that are interested in opening up a new boarding home, or were these all just older people that had these homes already?
Well, I don't think the applicant part is relevant. I mean, I think the point of what you're trying to say is, we are the Department of Health, and our job is to protect and ensure for the safety and well-being of New Mexico residents. And if they reside under a facility type, we have an obligation to license them. And from the governor's order to the secretary's office, that's why we're doing this. Anecdotally, I will tell you, in November, multiple people passed away in a potential boarding home in November of last year. It was unlicensed and unregulated. And this has nothing to do with the operators that are operating right now, good, bad, or otherwise. This is us creating a system of care that fits the needs of individuals so that we don't have those kind of tragedies. And so our goal is, just like every operator that's on this phone call that's taken their time today to give us public comment, our goal is to build a rule so that we can create something of this facility type that works to be able to support and keep people safe. And that's really the point.
And see, the thing is, the problem was what happened is that when you guys deregulated this home, everybody and the neighbors down the street decided, okay, we can open up a home because they thought it was just put the residents there and they're going to take care of themselves. Well, they didn't realize that, like I said, like every job, everybody needs supervision.
Right.
So that's what created the problem here.
Right, and I think that if you look in the last 10 years, and I wasn't around in that period of time, you're absolutely right. There were things that have made the newspaper where unscrupulous operators put people in sheds, put them in jeopardy, people passed away, died, were put in harm's way, and that's why we're here today.
And one more important thing that you people should know is that these older people, rental facilities, they live with them.
Right.
They live with them 24/7, so they know them.
Right.
They know them like the back of their hand.
And that's a very important asset to have. They get to know them. And you're talking 25, 30 years with people on the phone have been in these boarding homes. That's why we want to build rules so that those people can stay in place and stay in these homes. That's exactly the reason why we're doing this.
Well, it kind of makes sense and it doesn't. Because the thing is, this people have no place else to go. And what is the state's solution for people if they have to close these homes?
Right. And our goal,
what are you going to do? Can I go knock on your door or knock on long-term care and aging or APS and tell them, hey,
right.
I need help with my brother. I can't afford to pay more.
Right.
Where is he going to go?
Well, and that is one of the tenets in one of the areas of the Department of Health, and the Secretary is very passionate about that we need to be a safety net to all New Mexico residents across the board to provide care and oversight for them. So you're absolutely right.
Because my brother doesn't want to leave from where he's at. And I don't blame him because that's his family.
And we're not asking you to do that. We're not asking you to do that. We're asking for your comments on these rules.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, the other thing that I was going to say real quick on here was, again, as we were talking about fire safety under that section 7.8.4.66, as I had mentioned earlier, you guys have it in here that you were under, again, because of the commercial boilerplate saying kitchen hoods, again, with fire suppression. Again, that's going to be one that I think there's going to be no way. There's going to be no way. That definitely has to come out of there. There's no way you're going to be able to afford that. So the rest of the stuff as far as, again, fire extinguisher, just determining which is going to be residential, commercial, and what's going to be the procedure on tagging and reinspection, et cetera, and stuff that's going to be commercial. I don't even know if that's going to be able to be the case or just be able to do residential fire extinguishers and then again inspected once a year just to make sure that they're still charged and holding their charge. That same section then also starts going into where it talks about, again, the evacuation plan. I'm not disagreeing that, again, a written evacuation plan needs to be on there, and then also maybe again in your intake there has to be a mention of that. But again, I think that we're kind of in a rough area there also here where I think a lot of the operators, again, if the training, are they going to, if the training here, if they want them to do the training and stuff on here and that, and I don't think they're going to be able to do a lot of that because, again, they're operators and they're caregivers. They're not firemen, they're not firewomen, et cetera. They don't have that training. So at that time, is that going to be something the state might go ahead and come and give in and be able to give at no cost? Is that going to be part of maybe that they can do that once a year? That might be something that has to be entertained, or who's going to pick up the cost on that? Or is that going to be a state facility or somebody else that maybe comes and does it? I'm not saying I disagree with it because that's an important one. But the biggest thing is you could have all your safety measures in place. And again, it comes down to that disability of that client waking up in the middle of the night, there's a fire, and they don't know how to do nothing because of their disability. They don't know how to get a fire extinguisher. They don't know how to look at a fire plan. They're just now losing their mind and wondering, how do I get out of here? And they're going to look for anything. And it comes down to seconds when you're in a fire. Seconds. And that's the reason how come right now I think that's going to have to get kind of looked at when you're looking at fire drills. And that's one of those things in there where it says, if it's conducted monthly, again, is that something that's going to be on the burden of the operator to endure that expense and the time? And then again, how accurate is that going to be and how thorough is that going to be? Because again, they're caregivers. They're not firemen or firewomen.
Right.
So I look at that one real quick as one that's going to have to get looked at and stuff like that. And then real just quick on the end, because I know we're getting close here, is, you know, where it says on here, under Incorporated and Related Code 7.8.4.67, caregivers, criminal history, and screening requirements. I'm not saying that I disagree with that, but I think, again, that as we talk about that intake packet, I think it's also, since if we're talking that the operator is going to have such information that they need to have on the client, I think sometimes it's only fair that they also have maybe that history, if possible, or some type of background on a client also, to know if there's a violent nature, if they've been in the past. You know, again, we believe that all of us have room for change, but again, it's always good to know. And so I think that that's something that has to go, again, back into that intake packet, because it's kind of, again, checks and balances there, so that we can go ahead and ensure that we're getting a safe client on here, we're an operator. That client too, or not, hey, maybe we need to go ahead and know that if we're going to take this client, it might be a little bit more money because it's probably going to be a little bit more work. And then again, if it comes out of state funding or if it comes out of next of kin or somebody or what, I don't know. This is where we're at. This is where we're at. Where does it come from? And I look at that here as an important one because I've just noticed, again, again, following all of this stuff here, volunteering with people and everything, is, you know, that our mental illness has become it's on the rise. It's increased dramatically just over the last 5 to 10 years. Where it's affecting even younger people at a faster rate. It's not always just the elderly and people who are even in their mid-age. I mean, we got people in here as young as in their 20s, clients in their 20s now that are put in this position here because of whatever condition, car accidents, drug use, whatever the case may be, that put them into that situation that they have a disability. So I think that's going to be something else that is going to have to definitely be looked at, and it's important. And this way too, again, that track record, you know, is it a disability? Because there's many times that APS is called, but they're only called because of the client's disability, not because of what they're saying is true. And then that right there is where, again, we get all the rumors started. That's somewhat what has us here today too. I know it's not the only reason, because you did touch on the other stuff, the death and other stuff that has happened. But a lot of this too is the amount of paperwork generated over all the years here from APS and everybody else and stuff like that, where, again, how much investigation is done, how much follow-through there, I'll tell you, there's no continuity there. There's instances that I know that APS has gone to visit a client, and then you've never seen a report, you never saw no follow-up, you saw nothing from it ever again. I've seen others where the operator requests a copy, and the operator never gets a copy back on there and stuff like that on there. It's like tooth and nail to just find out what happened, because I need that copy for my file so that I can go and protect myself, because I have a license to hold on to now. And we don't have none of that in here, talking about rights also for the operator. And I think that both need rights.
Can I make a comment before 5 o'clock comes?
Go ahead.
One of the things I wanted to say about that fire drill and that safety, you know, back in the day when I had more people living in, I wanted everybody that was in my home, this is my children included, because I have 6 kids, and my grandbaby, you know, when she lived here, we used to have fire drills. I wanted it to know whether so there's a different sound of a fire alarm sounding or a smoke detector sounding than a carbon monoxide noise, you know, the sound. I wanted them to be aware of what they had to do, and I taught this all the time. It was an everyday thing, and then I would have fire drills what was it, once a month? I think it was like once a month for each one of them. I documented them. I showed them where they had to be and what kind of sound, and I wanted them to be aware of every fire. I'm not sure if anybody's ever done this, but there's different sounds that come out of that when they make a noise. When there's a carbon monoxide, there's a different kind of beat. And so I think within that, I think with that proposal, that I totally agree with that one. But teaching, I taught it myself. I bought extra fire extinguishers, and I taught them how to do it. And I mean, even the volunteer fire departments would come in to help you out, help the people out. They're willing to volunteer their time to come into the home and to teach also. It's just, you know what, it's just a phone call away of going to asking. There are people that are willing to come in to teach, to help also, so they can better each everyone's home safety. And so with that, you know, I totally agree with that. I agree with what was put down with the fire drills and documenting and you know what, we should teach them just in case. I have the 4 houses and I want each one of them to know the sound and what to do next. So with that,
and I agree with that, Elizabeth, and I'm with you that it's important. But my point is I don't think that it should be at the burden of the operator, and that's what we're discussing in this rule here. I don't think it should be at the burden of the operator, because in other words, yes, there could be the volunteer department and stuff like that could come in, but then again, they're not obligated, so you can't guarantee that they're going to come and hold that training. And then if they do, is they're going to be actually certified, report written, everything documented to meet state fire marshal standards. And that's kind of the reason how we got to be careful with that on here, because the operator is the one that's also going to, ultimately going to be holding the bag. If we just, again, I mean, I'll just use an example real quick today. What's going on here as far as liability here, on the situation we're in America. We got to be careful with sometimes on how we approach things. And this fire one here, exactly, I agree with it. It needs to be done. Those are basic minimum things on here.
All right.
Who's going to put the deal? And what's the requirement?
I'm going to cut you off now because it's time for us all to say goodnight. So I very much appreciate everyone's participation and the wide-ranging comments. Did we get another chance?
No, I'm just saying we appreciate the chat.
Oh, we appreciate the chat, we appreciate the phone-ins, we appreciate the video check-ins. You've given us all a lot to think about and chew on, and we appreciate it. And I just wanted to make you aware to expect. I have forwarded during this hearing, I have 3 written feedbacks that I forwarded to Ann to vet and submit. I have one from HSD, one from ALTSD, and one from Disability Rights. I'm sorry, I have 4, and one from Mrs. Silverman, and all 4 have been forwarded to Ann. Thank you. In writing, and will be forwarded to you. Excellent. Thank you very much. Did I miss anybody?
No, because
Did anyone submit an email other than the ones we just listed?
An email as far as for documentation, or is that just for information?
Well, I'm just asking if anyone submitted an email with comments other than the 4 entities we just listed.
I believe maybe I'm not a certain here, but I believe it was not Elizabeth that had said that she had sent documentation with her email.
yes, I sent 2 of them, but I guess Kristen received it, and apparently I guess the Secretary of Cabinet did not receive it. So what I'm going to do is I will do it by later this evening by 7 o'clock. I will resend it back to you.
So maybe for the record then, if that's going to be the case, maybe you ought to give them your email for the record right now that it's on the record, and then possibly make sure you have a clarification on his email, and see if it's something you can maybe send within the next 30 minutes perhaps or something.
Yeah, so the record's closed at 5. Ms. McRae, if you would forward the email you already sent, so we can see what the send date and time on it is, that's what would be helpful.
That's what I was getting at.
All right, so do that, and thank you all very much, and that'll end the hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Turn that full back. There we go. Okay. You want to what?
I think it's asking you to confirm.
Yes.
It's really not in the meeting.
Boy, they're getting too glare off that thing.